music.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it.
Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind?
That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like it being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan will cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when we run so close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it, those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? I mean, come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. Sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing is important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes, every gear change, every corner, perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do, it's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never gonna get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own! Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be back with you once again for the Retro Racing Managers League. It's the Grand Prix 2 World Championship of 1990, and it's round 3 from Imola in Italy for the San Marino Grand Prix of 1990. And it's been a tough start to the season already. A win for McLaren and a win for Benetton, with Gerhard Berger taking the spoils at Phoenix. And of course, last time out, Nelson Piquet winning on home turf in Brazil. No finishes for either Ayrton Senna or Alain Prost from the first 2 rounds. They still have a couple of points on the board each, though, for various reasons, and it means that the 1990 title race is wide open. I'm Jake Sanson. Beside me in the virtual commentary box is Ryan Ferris, and we're getting ready for pre-qualifying, Ryan.
Yes, and what an exciting pre-qualifying event we're going to have here, with the field split by under half a second, so it's going to be really exciting.
And it means, of course, that it is literally an open playing field. It could be anybody's race to take away. So we're going to get straight into the action. 30 laps for this pre-qualifying race. The first 3 teams to cross the finish line are going to be progressing through. And so far, so good for BMS Dallara, because their British charge, young Damon Hill, who is turning 30 over the course of this 1990 season, in fact. He is there in pole position alongside the AGS of Yannick Dalmas. Then beside him, it is Gabriele Tarquini on the second row in his AGS, the team going very well here this weekend, with Bruno Giacomelli there in P4. A fantastic performance from him in the Larousse Lola. Then it's Juan Fangio the second going well in 5th position alongside Joachim Winkelhock. So great news from them. It's an all Reynard row 4 as Roland Ratzenberger is there in 7th, and his new teammate replacing Michael Andretti is the untried and untested 20-year-old star Michael Schumacher from Germany. Roberto Moreno lines up alongside Paul Warwick in the leading Porsche, who is there in the top 10. JJ Leto in the Monteverdi Onyx alongside Martin Brundle in the Minardi. Aguri Suzuki flying up the order to 13th in the Larousse Lola alongside Stefan Johansson in the second Onyx. Then it's Johnny Herbert in the BMS Dallara. Christian Fittipaldi is next in the Lego Osella. Then Pierluigi Martini lines up in position along with Ukyo Katayama. Christian Fittipaldi in the Life, not the Osella. Mike Thackwell is next up alongside Alain Menu in the second Porsche. And then Alessandro Zanardi, who is in the Osella, alongside Alan McNish in the Life. Willie T. Ribbs in the Real alongside Emanuele Pirro. And then Mark Blundell and Piercarlo Ginzani round out the starting grid. It's going to be a fascinating battle for victory. And as you can see, the cars are lining up, Ryan.
Yes, indeed, with the championship leaders to Martini and Katayama really far back down the grid.
So let's see how it all plays out. We're going to have a very interesting challenge. 30 laps, 1 mandatory pit stop. What a start from the AGS of Dalmas, who's already shot forward as we get underway here at Imola. And the charge forward is already very much on the march. Tarquini trying to come through in 4th position, squabbling around as Giacomelli gets a good start and tries to pull alongside Damon Hill. Watch for the fast starting Winkelhock, who's come straight up into 4th position in the Zach Speed. So a cracking start as they round Tamburello for the first time, and on the run down to Villeneuve. So this is going to be an absolutely sensational battle here in this race. But Dalmas has got an early advantage in the AGS, and as they break down to the hairpin into Tosa, Yannick Dalmas going strong from the get-go. So already things going well from his point of view. And we look at Johnny Herbert as he tries to break down into the Tosa hairpin. Is everybody going to stay out of trouble? For the moment it looks like it as we go on board with Yannick Dalmas. What a start from the Frenchman.
It was a lightning start from Dalmas. However, Hill getting quite a poor start and almost getting passed by both AGSs.
Tarquini there in P5, trying to get past Joachim Winkelhock. Has not quite been able to make it work. And as the field tries to work its way through, that is a move from Paul Warwick in the Porsche. Once again, the younger brother of sports car and Formula One ace Derek is absolutely flying. He is turning into one of the dark horses of this 1990 pre-qualifying field. The Porsche driver, very wild card and very left field choice from team boss Scott Woodwis, Ryan, but it's turning out to be a very inspired signing.
Certainly, and I think obviously he's definitely following in the footsteps of his older brother. Martini, championship leader, is up into 13th now, so it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses through the field.
And we can see there in the midfield, everybody has just about got through without major incidents, so it's a very clean first lap. But with about half a second covering the entirety of the field in their pre-qualifying laps, it's going to be very tough to see who's going to get through. At the moment, it's AGS Dallara with the BMS Scuderia Italia squad. And in third place, Lola LaRousse. But here comes Damon Hill side by side with Yannick Dalmas. He has to bail out of Tamburello there. Goodness me, that's a brave opportunity, but he had to bail out of it. There was no way he was going to go side by side with Dalmas there. And as they come through Villeneuve, into the pits comes Moreno. So what's happened there? Moreno seems to have had some kind of mechanical issue. So I don't know whether there was damage to the car or not. We're going to have a look back. And yes, he had a damaged rear wing. That was the problem with Moreno. So he brings the Eurobrun into the pit lane. So problems there for Roberto Moreno. Unfortunate considering how quick he was in qualifying. But Roberto Moreno now finds himself down at the back as Brundle in the Minardi has a move to come through. So let's see if Brundle can get the move. Well, there's Giacomelli. Third position in behind Hill. Look at these three. They're stretching away, but they are not giving each other a moment's rest here, Ryan. This is going to be very tough.
No, and the problem that we see with Hill is Hill goes up the inside into Aqua Minerale, gets it stopped, and that means Giacomelli could get past Dalmas as well.
So with Damon Hill taking the lead back, having got the pole position lap, here's Giacomelli. Now in the Lola LaRousse, and he's going to have a try at Dalmas. Obviously, they're only on one-stop strategies, and they can take it any time between laps 10 and 20. Although, of course, if they have a problem like Moreno had, they can count that as their one mandatory stoppers. Again, Giacomelli has a look on Dalmas, this time in a very brave part of the circuit to go for the move at all. And that's backed them into Winkelhock and Tarquini. This is great news for Damon Hill, the son of the two-time Formula One World Champion Graham Hill. And Damon there is doing an absolutely sensational job. Here's Paul Warwick charging after Roland Ratzenberger in the Cadbury's Reynard. And the car in front of him is his new teammate, Michael Schumacher, replacing IndyCar-bound Michael Andretti, who only did the first two races of the season. But it was dubbed a nice little deal between Williams and Reynard. They've got their eyes on this boy as well, by the way, Damon Hill. Here comes Michael Schumacher, making his first attempt at an overtake in front of the eyes of the cameras as Suzuki gets the fastest lap. Martini's into the pits. So Martini's had an incident as Giacomelli makes his bid to go past Dalmas. Now I want to pick up what happened with Martini because he had, an electrical problem.
And this is definitely not good news for the championship leader of the Go Poppy Cup. Obviously found himself in a tough place to come from down the back of the grid, and definitely not a good day so far.
Well, fortunately, he's been able to get it relatively back to the pits as Suzuki makes the dive up the inside of Fangio in the Eurobrun. Can't make the move stick, though. So Fangio II, the nephew of the 5-times world champion that everyone referred to as the Maestro. He's working his magic hard. Now, here's Stefan Johansson, just kicking up the grass a little bit on the exit of Tosa as he climbs up the hill once again. Tucks in behind Fangio, Suzuki and Brundle. Martin Brundle still doing a grand job in the Minardi. Is that an overtaking move in front? It is, as Suzuki gets the place into P10 and then promptly cooks the brakes a little bit there into the uphill camber climb out of Aqua Minerale. But still doing a grand job as Giacomelli now in second, stretches away from Dalmas, who is holding up the field here. You can see that Winkelhock is queuing up to try and make his bid to come through. And this is not a safe place for Yannick Dalmas to be.
Is Dalmas going a bit longer into the stint? Has he fueled up a bit more than everyone else? Because it seems he had a really good start, and it seems to be fading away on his race pace at the moment.
Looks like he is. That's a good spot there, Ryan. He has got a heavier fuel load on board, but then Giacomelli hasn't got that much less fuel. So Giacomelli obviously taking a little bit longer, but Damon Hill, another new fastest lap, 1:23.3. He's stretching out the gap, as now we've got Joachim Winkelhock trying to make the bid on the inside line, and he has got a lighter car than Yannick Dalmas. This is a big problem for the German pairing of Winkelhock in the Zach Speed and Schumacher in the Reynard, as they are trying to make their way through to come past Yannick Dalmas. Here we go. Here's the move. Winkelhock is going to try his luck here on the inside of Yannick Dalmas. He's got the inside line. There's no way he's going to keep that one at bay, as Fittipaldi now comes into the pits. What's happened to Christian Fittipaldi in the life? We'll have to have a look back at that one as well. But certainly there's a problem for... Oh, he's got a throttle issue. So Fittipaldi into the pits with a throttle problem. That is not good news. And that drops him all the way down the order as well. The youngest man in the field, Christian Fittipaldi. And it's definitely not what he wanted to see coming out of this one. Meanwhile, we're back with the battle up front. Here's Giacomelli trying to close in on Damon Hill, as Tarquini gets a little bit crossed up there in front of Roland Ratzenberger, the Austrian. So they work their way back up the climb. And this is going very well indeed for Gabriele Tarquini in the top six. The AGS cars now 4th and 6th, because Winkelhock has managed to get past Dalmas. The next man to have a try at that is Michael Schumacher, the new member of the field. So Damon Hill running in a solid lead, 2.6 clear of Giacomelli. Looking good from his point of view so far, Ryan, and that is a big gap for Giacomelli to make up.
Yes, indeed. However, I believe from what I saw, Hill is going quite short into this opening stint. I think he's only got about 8 laps of fuel in the car from what I saw, and Giacomelli getting it all locked up, but he seems to have good pace at the moment, does Giacomelli.
Well, Bruno is one of those experienced hands within this field, so he's got good experience of Formula 1 cars over the last 10 years or so to draw upon, so it definitely helps from his point of view. Here's Ukyo Katayama locking up in the chicane. He was the man, of course, who did such a fantastic job last time out at Interlagos when he was left out in the lead and he brought the Coloni home to the victory. So a fabulous performance. But this is a terrific run thus far from Ukyo Katayama again. It's not as high ranking as he was before, but he's certainly there or thereabouts, as Giacomelli runs in P2 behind Damon Hill, and he is trying to get that gap down. Is Aguri Suzuki in trouble? Suzuki's got a gearbox failure. Oh, this is not good news for Aguri Suzuki as the field goes around him. He tucks in, hugs the inside. Oh, contact in front and a big shunt. Oh, that's gone terribly wrong. Now, we're going to need to have a look at this one again, because Suzuki...
Is that Katayama that's off? That's still one of the Coloni's off.
We're going to have a look at it. Let's look on board with Johnny Herbert. He's the one who approaches the scene, and he finds an absolutely blocked race circuit with cars everywhere. And I think you might be right. I think that was Katayama in the middle of all of that, so we'll pick it up again. Oh, no, it's his teammate. It's Thackwell. It's Thackwell in the Coloni, so let's watch again as they come through. Up at the top of the hill, Thackwell's got nowhere to go. He runs off the circuit. Also off the circuit in front of him is one of the Eurobruns. That's Fangio going off, but it's Thackwell who loses the wheel. And I think that's one of the Ocellas off as well. It's worth double checking because Fangio went off. Brundle goes through no problem. Johansson's there, but Fangio has to go very deep to avoid. Catches the gravel. So too does Thackwell. But then further back, it is Zanardi in the Lego Ocella that hits them all. So that's 2 cars out of the race. I think Fangio the second got away with it, actually. So Fangio is not going to be out of the race with that one, but Suzuki's out. We've also obviously lost Thackwell, and we've also lost out there with Zanardi. So all 3 drivers out of the race on the spot.
Yeah, and that was a horrendous accident there. But
oh, now Brundle! Brundle in trouble! Brundle's in trouble as well in the Minardi. So what happened to Martin Brundle? He's come in. Oh, he's got a puncture. Oh dear. That's terrible bad luck for Minardi there this time, Ryan.
Yeah, they seem to be dropping like flies at the moment. I think we've had someone come into pit lane almost every lap with some sort of problem.
Well, we know obviously that these cars are a lot more brittle than the top 10 manufacturers in the Grand Prix grid. They all struggle to get to the end of these races because obviously they operate on a much lesser budget than the top 10 teams, and that makes it... Oh, has Hill got a problem? I think Hill's had a problem, you know. He's dropped down from the fray, so in all of this, I think Hill's had a problem. I want to try and pick it up. There it is. Yeah, look, Damon Hill, a brake problem. So the race leader, Damon Hill, is out of this race. That is absolutely catastrophic.
Such a shame. He had such good pace. I think just pushing the car more because Giacomelli was closing best part of half a second a lap. And yeah, just running into brake issues.
Oh, well, that's a victory gone for BMS Dallara. And Damon Hill was doing such a fine job here at Imola up until that point. So once the dust has all settled, it now falls to Giacomelli. He leads the way. Winkelhock is in second, and in third place is young Michael Schumacher.
And Dalmas, who had that amazing start, has now dropped back down to 6th. So, yeah, definitely struggling in this race.
Well, 5 retirements in 1 lap. We lost Hill, we lost Brundle, we lost Suzuki, we lost Zanardi, and we lost Mike Thackwell. So an absolutely disastrous start to the race then for those 5. And in the twinkling of an eye, we lose about 1/5 of the grid. And there's yellow flags up in front as well. More problems. And it's an off there. Who's that's gone? We need to pick it up. It's Johansson. Johansson's had a problem. Now, what is the reason for his demise? Engine failure. Oh, my goodness. Well, that's pretty evident there, Ryan, unfortunately. The Onyx has blown its top there, unfortunately.
Yes, and yeah, they are starting to drop quite substantially like flies at the moment. Are we going to have a finisher in this race?
Well, I certainly hope so. We certainly need at least 3 of them from 3 different teams, preferably. There's Katayama getting through all of this drama to now run in behind Johnny Herbert. Now, of course, the BMS Dallaras actually ended up coming through the field in Phoenix to get through and qualify. And a very interesting question raised by Michael Gillespie. Maybe there's oil on the track, because quite a few cars have obviously ended up coming off the road. Was that the reason for Fangio running deep and then going off the circuit? What did he lose control of the car on the oil left by Aguri Suzuki? That is a very interesting point, and it could well be the cause of that incident earlier on, of course. But there are plenty more incidents to come, the way things are currently going. We're only on lap 7 of 30 at the moment. Giacomelli leads from Winkelhock, Schumacher, Tarquini, Ratzenberger. Then it's Paul Warwick in front of Yannick Dalmas, Giglioletto, Fangio the second, incredibly still in 9th after all his problems, and Ghinzani, who is there in 10th in front of Herbert and Katayama, Menu in the second Porsche. Then it's Pirro, Ribbs in 15th place in the Real. Then it's Blundell in the Lego Acela, as Katayama makes his bid to get past Johnny Herbert. Can't quite make it happen this time. McNish is 17th in the Life. Then it's Martini, Moreno and Fittipaldi. They were at the front in the last race, but then when qualifying is only half a second between all of the competitors, that just shows you how the slightest issue in qualifying really can completely change your race weekend.
I think Martini must have got caught up in one of the incidents, because he was running in the top 15 just a couple laps ago.
Yeah, he was indeed. He had, I think it was it a throttle problem or an electrical problem, something like that brought him into the pits.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
And we had Moreno in, obviously, on the first lap as well with a broken rear wing in his Eurobrun. So that obviously brought him back into the pits. So problems there. As down the hill, we are watching Fangio the second, the nephew of the 5-time world champion. That's Paul Warwick making a big lunge. He almost got 2 into 1 there. Absolutely fabulous driving from Paul Warwick. Almost made 2 overtakes in one fell swoop there. Oh no, sorry, that's not Warwick. That's his teammate Menu. So Menu going his way up through the field. The young Swiss. There were a lot of debates as to whether he could hack it at this level. Alain Menu proving them very much wrong. He can hack it, and he's made a lovely move there on Katayama. Now he's lining up Johnny Herbert.
I was amazed he managed to get it stopped. It all looked a bit squirrely going into the braking zone, and he does look as though he's going to try and make a move on Herbert, but you can't go side-by-side through Tamburello.
Well, he's got superior horsepower in that Porsche engine. It does have an awful lot of grunt, so I would not at all be surprised if he makes the bid coming into Tosa. He has a look and then thinks better of it. But Alain Menu definitely on the charge here in the Porsche. Now, here's the young charge, Michael Schumacher. Was only expecting to be in Formula 3 racing this year, but he was obviously poached by Williams as their reserve driver, and they've done a deal with the Reynard team to basically bring him in for experience. And there's all sorts of rumours as to whether or not we might see, depending on how good he is, Michael Schumacher may even step into the Williams team later this year. You never know what can happen, but it is fascinating to see the kind of calibre of race cars that are coming through and the young drivers that are being able to drive them. Here's Giacomelli. Experience definitely counting in his favour on home soil.
Oh, and that's McNish going wide.
It is indeed. Yep, the Life just getting a little bit too locked up there with its new feeler colour scheme that we saw obviously for the first time last race at Interlagos. But Giacomelli out in front, that is for sure. And there's Schumacher still trying to gain some ground on Winkelhock. Now, let's have a look at the strategies. Schumacher is actually fueled a lot lighter than the race leader Giacomelli, who's got about 4 more laps worth of fuel in the car. But Winkelhock and Schumacher are likely to come in at a very similar time. So it's going to be interesting to see how much time is lost or gained in those pit stops. Tarquini is still within firing distance as well in the AGS. Here comes Menu having another go, and again he bails out of the move on Johnny Herbert. He just doesn't quite have the mentality to just stick it up the inside and hope for the best.
And it seems maybe that Porsche doesn't have particular stability in the braking as we saw it earlier. But no, it's looking very tough to make it pull a move at the moment.
Well, this is only the 3rd race for a Reynard Grand Prix car, and Michael Schumacher is already their 3rd different driver. It was Michael Andretti in this car last time out in Interlagos, but he's clearly felt that IndyCar is where he's best suited. This time Menu is going to get the move on Herbert. Lovely overtake from the Swiss. He squeezes Herbert to the apex and now leaves the Brit trailing in the wake with Katayama, Pirro and Ribbs all trying to come through. In fact, Katayama is making his bid already. That was a lovely clean move from Alain Menu in the Porsche.
Certainly blocked pass, gave him no room to get back at him, and also left him for dust. And obviously Katayama, who started this race in 18th, doing very well to get through, potentially snagging 12th place, although it doesn't look to have been on the board.
Yeah, it's the top 10 drivers that obviously snag points in the GoBobby.UK Cup. There is no Manufacturers' Championship for pre-qualifying teams. They're obviously part of the main Grand Prix qualifying session and Grand Prix, so they don't score teams points in the GoBobby.UK Cup, unfortunately. There is a contention for that potentially for 1991. There used to be obviously a non-turbo championship as well as a turbo championship in the mid-80s, and there's talk about that for the vast quantity of pre-qualifying teams now trying to get through. And because they actually do compete in a race, even though it's only a short race, they do actually, the teams have now started arguing that essentially there should be a teams championship for the GoBobby.UK Cup qualifying. Now, Ghinzani, it's been picked up by Michael Gillespie. Ghinzani doing a fantastic job. He started dead last, 26th place, and he's now in 10th. So a great comeback from Ghinzani.
Indeed, and it looks as though Schumacher could be closing on Winkelhoff even more at the moment.
Yes, indeed. The German is gaining on the German. 1.4 seconds is now the gap, with Schumacher now finally having a clear bit of track in front of him. This young sports car prodigy who's been testing and racing in the Mercedes run by the Sauber team, which is still being rumoured about a possible Grand Prix tout at some point. Here is Winkelhock, but Schumacher has got that gap down to 1.6. The Yamaha engine does have a good top-end draft down the straight, but the Reynard, obviously with its Renault engine, has a lot of horsepower as well. So this could be an interesting battle for second place here. And of course, if anything were to happen to Giacomelli up front, then these two would effectively be battling for the win in the GoBobby.UK Cup.
Interestingly, the Winkelhock not really making massive inroads into Giacomelli. It's still staying around a 3 second to 3.1 second gap.
And that's a good point, because obviously, as we know, having looked at their fuel readouts, Winkelhock and Schumacher have a lighter fuel load than Giacomelli does. So the fact that he can't quite get close enough to him is very telling. Giacomelli looking quite comfortable in the lead of the race in that LaRousse Lola. They did manage to get through, of course, in Phoenix. They really struggled last time out. But here, they do have a genuine chance of it. Here's Emanuele Pirro, or here was Yannick Dalmas going wide and spinning. Dear oh dear, that's gone very badly wrong for Yannick Dalmas. He just overshot in the chicane, basically. He just overcooked it. Let's look again. What happened here, Ryan?
He's just coming in, he's trailing in, carrying way too much speed, and it seemed like he got it all wrong on the downshifts, and off he goes. Our once race leader is off. He still kept it going, though. You can hear the engine still running.
Yeah, so that is a slight problem, obviously, for AGS. They've still got Tarquini in 4th place, who was, of course, technically in front of Dalmas, having Dalmas fall down the order. And fair play to him. Yes, he's overcooked it and hit the curbs, but he has continued. And into the pits comes Schumacher. Schumacher pits. Now, this is a scheduled stop. So Schumacher decides to pit 1 lap earlier than Winkelhock, and this is to undercut him. Tarquini in the AGS comes in at the same time. This is going to need to be a fairly quick stop. 9.2. It's a bit longer than they would have liked, but there's still genuinely a good chance here for Schumacher to potentially jump past the Zach speed. But where's he going to get out on track? That is critical. And he gets out right into the path of Alan McNish in the Life. He should be able to get that Renault engine up to speed before the Life engine comes through. And Roberto Moreno is out of the race in the Eurobrun. Now, what's happened to him? He's had an engine failure, and you can see that that engine failure is pretty catastrophic.
Yes, it is steaming at the moment, quite substantially, and it looks like Schumacher has stayed ahead of McNish. So he has quite a large gap to the next people in front of him, so it looks like he could potentially perform the undercut here.
Well, it is going to be quite an interesting battle. Look at Joachim Winkelhock here in second place in the Zach speed, trying to force his way back into position. Warwick has now come up to third as a result of that pit stop, but he is still there in the top 6 on aggregate. So Giacomelli leads, Winkelhock second, and I'm sure that Winkelhock is going to be coming into the pits on this lap, which he is. So Winkelhock will come into the pits at the end of this lap. You can see that on his LED readout. It flashes green, the word pit, if he is going to come in, which exactly is what is shown. So now we're going to get to see how big a difference Winkelhock has been able to eke out on Schumacher in this in-lap. He comes into the pits, a new pit lane speeding limit, of course, for the 1990 season. So Winkelhock comes in, stops the car. Now the pit stop from the Reynard, as Ratzenberger comes in his Reynard as well, was 9.2 seconds. He needs a faster pit stop than that. And it's not going to be a faster pit stop than that. Look at that, 10.2 seconds. This is critical now. Where is Schumacher? I think he's going through, isn't he? We're going to have to keep an eye on it, but Schumacher will be coming through any moment now. Here he is on the pit straight. Now, where is Winkelhock going to get out in relation as Menu is out of the race in the Porsche? And he rejoins right behind. But what has happened to Alain Menu? We need to go back and have a look at it. Oh, there it is. Problem. We didn't see what the problem was. We were so busy focusing on the pit stop strategies that Menu has parked up. Well, the driving is definitely not under question here because he's doing a fantastic job behind the wheel, is Alain Menu in the Porsche, but the car just isn't reliable enough yet as Giacomelli continues to lead. Now, what's happened between Winkelhock and Schumacher? That is a critical one. We need to scan through. There they are, together, and Schumacher is pressuring Winkelhock for track position, which will, of course, become second when everybody else pits.
And Winkelhock having a substantially slower pit stop. I was quite surprised to see him come out still ahead of Schumacher, so that potentially suggests that Schumacher might have made a slight mistake on his outlap.
Well, there is Leto in the Monteverde Onyx. Tarquini now battling for what is 12th position in the race, but Tarquini has obviously pitted, and he got out in front of Ratzenberger and Dalmas. So that definitely helps his race strategy. What about Paul Warwick? Here he is in the Porsche, running in second position. He has had a solid start to his season, and I don't think Scott Woodward has any complaints at all in terms of his two drivers. Warwick and Menu definitely putting on a good show in the first 3 races. Unfortunate that they've not really been able to get this rather brittle Porsche to the end of enough races to really get those points back. Now here's Leto. So JJ Leto comes into the pit lane, and this needs to be a relatively good stop for the Monteverde Onyx as well, because he's got several drivers that he's up against as he tries to keep in a decent solid position. The top 10 blast through. Now I think we've got a great battle here. Tarquini. Oh my goodness, look at the squabble we've got up the road as Schumacher gets boxed in behind Winkelhock. Now that was Emanuele Pirro squeezing by, but Winkelhock is going to pass him no problem. And Ghinzani out of the race. Ghinzani's had a problem. Now, let's go back and have a look at what happened there to Ghinzani. He's had a puncture. That's why it got so congested. He's had to pull out in the middle of all of that squabble. So Ghinzani was actually very lucky there in the second Zach speed not to get caught up in all of that traffic and kerfuffle. That could have been a monumental accident. But what it has done is it's really tightened things up in the field here. You've got Winkelhock and Schumacher have managed to get past the traffic, so they're now in 7th and 8th. The car in front of them is Herbert in the Dallara, and Blandel in the Lego Acela is in front there. So this could be very interesting. Giacomelli leads the way. Warwick in second. Fangio is now third from Katayama, Blundell, Herbert, Winkelhock and Schumacher. As Pirro is getting overtaken, is he? Yes, he is. There goes Tarquini through into position.
And later getting it all locked up going through Acqua Minerale. I think, to be honest, Giacomelli may come out at the end of his pit stop with an even larger gap, being as Winkelhock and Schumacher getting caught up in all this traffic.
No wonder Pirro's struggling. He's got an electrical problem. So Pirro in the Real is falling down the order as he desperately tries to get that car back to the pits for the old Control-Alt-Delete in the hope that that car is going to be able to fire up again. A slight issue with problems like that they usually find with these cars. Oh no, he's not made it back. So Pirro is out of the race. Damage to the front wing for good measure. So Emanuele Pirro, I'm afraid, is out of the race. And Leto in the other Real. We've seen Johansson crash out of the race already. And Pirro out of the race in his Real. But the Monteverde Onyx really struggling here of JJ Leto. He's trying to keep it on the straight and narrow. But Bruno Giacomelli going longer into the race than his colleagues. But surely he will be coming into the pits anytime soon. Paul Warwick certainly is. The Porsche is due in this lap.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Katayama filters out at the end of all this. Currently sat in 4th position. He started this race in 18th. And at the moment is sat 2nd in the championship.
Indeed he is, but we also want to have a look at this little battle here developing as Winkelhock closes in on Johnny Herbert. And the tighter he gets to the Dallara, he needs to get an overtake done because Michael Schumacher sat behind him, wants 2nd position in this race. And that Winkelhock is definitely getting held up, Ryan. This is advantage Schumacher if he can jump him in the next phase of overtakes.
Yes, and Winkelhock has to get the move done here. It looks like he's gone the wrong side of him. So potentially a move into the bus stop chicane, but that's potentially... He won't get a move or opportunity for an overtake until we get to Tosa.
Well, Warwick is back in the pits. So into the pits comes the Porsche. But this is a fascinating tussle. Katayama in as well. But Schumacher now trying to hustle in behind the man in front of him. That's Joachim Winkelhock. We're on board with the Reynard. Now he'll be able to see as he closes in on Winkelhock. Now this is critical for Schumacher because if Winkelhock can't commit to the move, which he can't, Schumacher's going to have a chance down the straight surely to get in the draft up towards Tosa. He might get a move himself here. Down into the braking zone. He's got to leave it late. But it's not quite close enough. This is a fabulous little tussle for position. Here's Fangio in 2nd place in the Eurobrun with the Woolworths and Chad Valley backing. It's become very British all of a sudden, this Eurobrun squad. But how about this? Blundell is in 3rd place, being caught rapidly by this incredible pair. Winkelhock and Schumacher tucked up behind Johnny Herbert. And they've all got pit stops to make as well. Blundell and Herbert are going to be out on circuit for at least another lap. But Schumacher is doing all of the talking here in behind Winkelhock on his debut in a Grand Prix car.
Yeah, and it looks like Schumacher's lining him up into the chicane, but not quite close enough. And in doing so, all the squabbling of Winkelhock trying to get past Herbert has now dropped him back into the clutches of Schumacher.
Well, Giacomelli's into the pits from the lead. He won't lose that. He might lose it in terms of the aggregate. Fangio might get through, but Giacomelli will still be overall leading the race, provided nothing dramatic happens to his car over the course of the next few seconds, because he had a decent enough advantage initially over these two. And indeed he has come through. Schumacher had a look and locks up. He was just a little bit over-eager there, Michael Schumacher. Now Winkelhock is lining up Johnny Herbert, but Giacomelli has come in and out in the lead with a massive advantage. That's how much time Winkelhock has lost, sat behind these slower cars as McNish is out of the race. McNish has had a problem. So he's out of the race now as well in the life. Martini locks up into the chicane. So some big difficulties there. But so far so good for the man out front. That is Juan Fangio II. He's a couple of laps away from his pit stop in the leading Eurobrun.
Certainly, and it's going to be interesting. Obviously 5 seconds. Really see Ribs making a move. Not quite on Martini. Martini not having the best of races today, making all the mistakes he could possibly be making.
Yeah, he's got a lot of pressure on him since America. Of course, he took the win at Phoenix and has not really been in a winning position since that point. Blundell. Oh, and there's Schumacher. Schumacher's got through. He's made the move on Winkelhock. So Winkelhock has now got pressure from Paul Warwick in the Porsche. And Warwick's committing to the move on the inside. Surely he can't get alongside. He doesn't. But that is a big moment in this race because Schumacher is now effectively in 2nd place.
Yeah, that must have been a mistake there from Winkelhock, because considering Winkelhock had quite a gap over Schumacher after Schumacher making the mistake trying to overtake in the bus stop section. And then obviously that has brought Warwick, who has pitted into play now for the podium.
So Paul Warwick in the Porsche genuinely has a shout at the top three. If he can get past Winkelhock, and he's got good power. Oh, he just can't quite commit to the inside line. The thing is, when you go side by side at Tamburello, you are risking a monumental shunt. And he knows that he's got time. He's right in behind Winkelhock in the Zach speed. He doesn't want to rush this, because if he gets the move a couple of corners, a couple of laps later, he's genuinely got a real chance here of making it stick. So, Juan Fangio II, the nephew of the 5-time maestro, Juan Manuel Fangio, world champion in the 50s, is leading the race, but he's got a pit stop to make. This man, then, Bruno Giacomelli, who has made his stop in the LaRousse Lola, is effectively leading the race. Blundell is third in the Lego back to Sella as Michael Schumacher struggles for grip there in the Aqua Minerale. The youngster, only 20 years of age now, Michael Schumacher, making his Grand Prix debut, tucked up behind Johnny Herbert in the Dallara. And that's a move from Warwick. Further back, he has a go in the Porsche to try and get through past Joachim Winkelhock, and hasn't quite been able to make it stick. 8th place for Tarquini in the AGS, 9th is Leto in the Monteverde Onyx, and in 10th place is the second Reynard of Roland Ratzenberger.
And that's the problem that we're seeing around this circuit, is that the braking area, as Fangio pits, the braking areas are so shallow that you can't afford to run wide or else you're off the track because of how narrow the chicanes are.
The marbles are so strong on this circuit as well, which doesn't have... Oh, and into the pits. At the same time comes Herbert. That's held up Fangio, so that's not going to help his cause. And Schumacher is now released into third position, chasing down the Lego Acela. Look at how much time, though, they've lost in the pit stop phase. They've lost about a dozen seconds, roughly, because they weren't that far behind Giacomelli at the first pit stop, were they? I mean, Winkelhock was only 3 seconds back. And now they're 11 seconds back. And here comes Willie T. Ribbs having another crack at Martini. There's no way you can run side by side into Tamburello as Roland Ratzenberger charges up the hill out of Tosa. Oh, someone in trouble. It's the Porsche again. Oh, no. Yet again, the Porsche. It's fast. It's brilliant. It's got 2 incredible drivers at the wheel, but it's just not reliable enough yet. Devastating. Oh, and now for good measure, he's been hit into the corner by JJ Leto. So JJ Leto hit him as he was pulling off the circuit. I want to watch that back again, but this is what JJ Leto sees in the car. A massive ball of flame. Devastating for Porsche. They've got a very quick car. It just can't get to the end of races yet. And Leto, look, Warwick tries to pull off right into the path of Leto. Leto hits the Porsche. Now that could be investigated later, but obviously Warwick was trying to pull off the circuit and Leto just misjudged the position. So, devastating for Porsche. Unfortunately, they will score nothing again after a heroic effort. And this is easily one of the fastest cars in the field, the Porsche, without a doubt. But they just haven't got the capacity yet to bring those cars to the finish.
Certainly. Once they sort out the reliability of that Porsche engine, I think that thing will be absolutely dominant.
It's certainly looking that way, isn't it? Into the pits comes Mark Blundell, the last of the leaders to pit in. So Blundell in the Lego Acela. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to be repeating their qualification run at Interlagos when they managed to get through with this new boy. He's managed to go a long way into the race and get some headlines. Great, but unfortunately it's not going to be enough as Dalmas comes into the pits as well. Don't forget, he ran longer than anybody up at the front end of the field and obviously tumbled his way down the order. He's not been able to make the tyres work very well either, unfortunately, so Dalmas is going to fall way outside the top 10. And of course, there's only 14 cars still circulating because we've lost Paul Warwick in the Porsche, we've lost McNish, Pirro, Ginzani, Menu, Moreno, Johansson, Hill, Brundle, Suzuki, Zanardi and Thackwell, and they all went out on the same lap, of course.
Yes, and at the moment Katayama is running in 8th position after starting 18th in the race, so he's made up quite a lot of positions.
But this is one of those battles, isn't it, where to finish first you must finish. So this is a very interesting battle for all of the competitors. But there's Roland Ratzenberger. Looks like it's going to be a double finish for Reynard the way things are currently stacking up. But we still have 10 laps to go at the end of this one. And Giacomelli is 12 seconds clear of the young German superstar Michael Schumacher, who is running a great race in second on his debut in the Reynard. Here is Giacomelli in the LaRousse Lola. Don't forget that after this race, there is a 5-minute pause, and then we will go straight into the Grand Prix itself. So, Giacomelli running well, Schumacher and Winkelhock. It looks like it's going to be Lola LaRousse, Reynard and Zach Speed that qualify for the Grand Prix. And for 2 of those teams, that will be the first time they've done so. For Reynard and for Zach Speed, it will be their first qualification for a Grand Prix in 1990 as Marc Blundell locks up, trying to close up on Pierluigi Martini in the ailing Minardi.
And where the pack has been so close on pace throughout the weekend, it's also shown that pit strategy is going to play a massive part in the Grand Prix later, as we see that both Schumacher and Winkelhock, who were pitted earlier, found themselves stuck in traffic and has lost the best part of 10 seconds to Giacomelli because of the traffic.
So this could be very telling in terms of the Grand Prix. I know that... Oh, Blundell out of the race. Blundell is out of the race, and that's a suspension failure. You can see that on the right rear quarter of the car. So unfortunately, the Lego Acela is going no further as Marc Blundell parks the car at Tosa. And that is game over. Just 13 cars remain then. Only 10 can score points in the GoBobby.UK Cup for drivers. And obviously for the teams, well, the only thing that counts is coming through as one of the first 3 teams across the finish line. And at the moment, that's going to be LaRousse Lola, Reynard and Zach Speed. Although having said that, Michael Schumacher looking a little bit tentative there in the Cadbury's Reynard. It's not looking so easy for him at this phase because Winkelhock seems to be reeling him in again.
Yes, it's back down to a second, the gap between the 2 of them now. So Winkelhock potentially found some late race pace on Schumacher, so Schumacher's going to find himself going quite defensive in these last few laps.
You've got to remember that this is an absolutely gargantuan leap for Michael Schumacher. He was only really doing a testing program, having been poached by Topher Smith and the Williams team as a test driver. He's been doing some great grunt work for the Sauber Mercedes sports car team, as well as focusing on his Formula 3 campaign, never mind even Formula 3000. But he's done incredible work for Sauber Mercedes in the last few months, and clearly a few of the Grand Prix teams had their eye on him very early on, and Reynard did a deal with Williams to release him from his reserve driver role for the moment at least, and to run him in the car provisionally. So Williams could have a very interesting moment if anything were to happen to their regular 2 drivers, Riccardo Patrese or Thierry Boutsen. But obviously the cars are very safe in Grand Prix racing these days, and it looks like it could be a very interesting future. We've got a lot of great young talent on the horizon making their march in Grand Prix racing in 1990. Here's Michael Schumacher in front of Joachim Winkelhock. The tune of the gap is about 1.2 seconds at the moment, so it's music to the ears of the German in front, not so much to the German behind. Tarquini is 4th in the AGS, the Monteverdi Onyx of JJ Leto is in 5th place, and the Reynards are having a great day in Imola because Roland Ratzenberger is currently running in P6. We're on board with the rear wing of Joachim Winkelhock, but here's Fangio about to upset the apple cart at Reynard, at least briefly, although we watch Martini. Not quite sure what's happening there for the Minardi driver, but clearly the Italian race director wanting to focus on him. And Willy T. Ribbs in the Real. Puncture. And he's only just past the pit lane entry as well. That's agony. If that had happened a few seconds earlier, Willy T. Ribbs would have been able to get that car back to the pits and get it fixed. But he's now got the entirety of the circuit to negotiate. And as you can see, the Real is not going to make it.
And that is the second time we've seen a puncture along the start-finish straight. So potentially something there causing the puncture, or are they picking it up from the colossal crash we had earlier?
Well, that is very bad luck indeed for Ribbs and the Real team, with both cars now out of the race. Emanuele Pirro retiring some time ago. There's now only 12 cars remaining with 8 laps to go. And as long as there's 3 different teams at the finish line, it doesn't really matter how many finishes we get, but there's always a higher attrition rate in this pre-qualifying race because the cars are a lot less reliable as Ratzenberger drives around the outside to hold Fangio at bay. Brilliant bit of racecraft there from Fangio, but even better from Roland Ratzenberger as he hangs on to the position, and the Reynard remains in 6th as they try and get away from Katayama in the Coloni.
Definitely seeing that Reynard has got a really solid driver lineup this year. I'd be very happy if I was the Reynard boss at the moment.
Yeah, they've got 2 very talented aces, haven't they? Schumacher and Ratzenberger. Ratzenberger's been on the scene in motor racing for quite some time, has not really had the financial backing to climb the ladder, but fortunately he has got a very good team boss trying to raise his game. And that has definitely helped his cause as the field is obviously progressing in this very competitive 1990 season. But it is great to see that so many competitors are putting on such a good show, and certainly over at Team Reynard, William Knight putting his faith in young Ratzenberger, and obviously the new ace Michael Schumacher getting his tout to come through. So a fascinating situation, and really exciting to see how this is going. Schumacher runs very deep into the chicane as he pushes hard to extend the gap between himself and Winkelhock to 2 seconds.
Yes, I believe Winkelhock had a slight lock-up going into Tosa this lap, which has cost him a bit of time.
Doesn't look like he's got any issues with the car either. Schumacher likewise, so they are able to continue. But Giacomelli is out in front and doing a grand job in the LaRousse Lola. Oh, no, that's a problem for Ratzenberger. Ratzenberger's got an engine failure. Oh, that's gut-wrenching. And that's going to be a big problem potentially for Michael Schumacher. He's got a similar problem trying to get that Reynard to the flag, but he's there in second. Ratzenberger will still make the Grand Prix if Schumacher can get it across the line in the top 3. But that's definitely taken some points away from Ratzenberger's charge, because he will drop out of the top 10. Dalmas will get into it. Fittipaldi will just miss out if it stays like this. But Ratzenberger is going to miss out on some well-deserved points there. Top 6 was deserved for him.
Certainly, he hadn't really put a foot wrong all race, doing some stellar driving and defensive work behind the wheel. And yeah, that's hard luck for Ratzenberger.
What a shame. The car comes to a stop in the Tosa gravel trap, and the marshals will crane the car off the circuit. But what it does mean is that Giacomelli now has Schumacher, Winkelhock, Tarquini, Leto and Fangio in the top 6. As Fangio II, the nephew of the 5-time world champion from the Argentine, is running in P6. Here comes Dalmas, and that puts him into 9th. He gets past Martini. And you have to say, the Minardi here in Europe, and even in Brazil last time out, completely different compared to the car we saw in Phoenix. It just doesn't seem to have any balance or any grip.
Well, you wouldn't have believed that it's won a race this season from what we've seen today. It's not been particularly great at all.
No, there just doesn't seem to have been any of the consistent solidarity and rhythm. Senna Stoffmehl very happy with his driver Ukyo Katayama, doing work for me the first 2 races, he says. And he got the win, of course, last time out at Interlagos, and very deservedly so from the young Japanese talent. But even here, having started way down the order, Katayama has worked his way up into 7th position. Not a bad haul of points that'll be for the young Japanese ace. But here is Michael Schumacher, still looking strong in 2nd place. But Bruno Giacomelli is 17 seconds up the road now. That shows you the momentum that carries with him, having got out into the lead after the pit stops.
Definitely, and it seems like a very quick car with a quick driver behind the wheel as well. But just absolutely obliterating the field today at the moment with that 17-second lead.
Well, of all of the competitors in this pre-qualifying race, you have to say Giacomelli is probably the most experienced of all of the competitors in the field. So he certainly knows his way around the car, and experience does count on circuits like this one, because Imola is a tough circuit, but he will have been racing here since 1980, of course. He's pretty much done every San Marino Grand Prix at Imola in that time, so he knows the track very well. So that's even more impressive when you consider that a lot of the other drivers are very inexperienced, that Michael Schumacher is currently 2nd in his first outing in a Reynard, and the car is clearly incredibly quick in his hands. He's only 20 years of age, don't forget, and he's barely competed in a Formula 3 race. So he's done a phenomenal job to get up to this standard of speed.
Yes, certainly. And obviously someone we've already mentioned already today is Fangio II, who has been on an absolute charge since his first pit stop. Will he get later? Will he have enough laps? It looks like he's got the pace at the moment.
Yeah, the car is definitely going fast enough. That's a good point and a good spot there. The Eurobrunn in P6 charging after Leto. But he does have a bit of time to do it. We'll just have to kind of have a little bit of a speculative look to see how he goes. But Schumacher, look, he's pushing very hard. You can see that when he gets up and over the curbs, he's wrestling with the car to try and avert a spin. But he is giving it everything. There is Fangio II. We pick him up at the right moment because Katayama is actually gaining ground on him now. So interestingly, Fangio is closing on Leto, but Katayama is closing on Fangio. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets there first, essentially, to make the critical move.
Yeah, and Katayama
Oh!
also have...
Chama in front. Is that Leto? Is that Leto in trouble? It is. Oh, that's Tarquini even. Tarquini in the AGS is going to retire from this race. And the car is on fire for him now. Well, that means we know the identity of our 10-point scorers. And none of them are going to be driving an AGS. Oh, no, sorry, one of them is, because Dalmas is going to be 8th. But Tarquini is going to lose 5th place. Why is he still continuing? I wonder, is he just trying to complete as many laps as possible in the hope that someone else is going to retire on the same lap? Because if he does, he can still grab a point. That'll be what he's doing. But this is very dangerous indeed, as now Fangio and Katayama are going to come at him at the same breath, and they will swing by. But I think Tarquini has now lost all power. So he realises he's got to bring that car off. What it does do, though, is it's going to be a real problem if there's oil down. Look, he's crashed into the back of the Osella that's parked up there of Blundell's car. But Tarquini there in a desperate bid to complete enough laps to still be a point scorer. If someone else retires on the same lap, that's the only way that strategy will work. And obviously Blundell's car, the camera's still switched on. I'm surprised it's actually still switched on in these circumstances. But Martini is through into 9th and Fittipaldi is through into 10th. That strategy did not work for Tarquini, as everybody has now gone through and taken his position away.
As we look on to Schumacher, who is actually pulled out even more of a gap to Winkelhock.
Oh, he's in trouble now! Zach Speed are about to lose their position in this Grand Prix. So for Monteverdi on it, and into the pits comes Schumacher. Schumacher's in the pits now. Brake problems for Schumacher. Now, has he got enough of a gap? I don't think he does. So Schumacher in with a brake problem. They're going to have to cool it down. Winkelhock is up to 2nd, but he's got an engine failure. So Winkelhock is not going to be 2nd. This is a nightmare for Zach Speed and Reynard. Their race positions were booked solid. And now they're going to be out of it. Zach Speed will not make the Grand Prix. Leto in the Monteverdi Onyx is going to get into 2nd. All the bad luck that David Yunt has had in his managerial career, it's finally going to turn in his favour. Finally, David Yunt is going to get the result he as a team manager deserves with Monteverdi Onyx. Leto now into 2nd position. Winkelhock pulls off and out of the race. Fangio is up to 3rd in the Eurobrun, being chased down by the colony of Katayama, who's having another brilliant race now.
And it's not over yet. So we've still got 2 laps to go, and as we've seen, anything can happen, either on the last corner.
Well, there is Schumacher, recovers to 6th position, but heartbreak for the German, because 2nd place and qualification for his first Grand Prix was staring him in the face there. But it's all come to nothing. But all of a sudden, screaming over the radio is Senna Stoffmehl to Ukyo Katayama. Come on, man, put your foot down. You can get Fangio. We could beat Eurobrun in this one. But Monteverdi Onyx and Eurobrun are set to qualify when they thought it was all done. There is the man on his final lap, Bruno Giacomelli. Experience counting in his favour here at Imola as he gets the LaRousse Lola to come through into the victory. But what a dramatic turn of events here.
And the gap is really close between Fangio and Katayama, only 0.6 of a second between the two of them. And the best part of half of behind our leader, Giacomelli.
They are indeed. So Giacomelli's going to cruise home to the victory, but there's 3 cars and 3 teams battling for the final 2 grid slots in this Grand Prix. Monteverdi Onyx, Eurobrun and Coloni. And it really is a nail-biter. But here is the man who's going to get LaRousse Lola in for the 2nd time out of 3 races. The LaRousse Lola team are going to get into the Grand Prix through pre-qualifying. It's a half-distance race. But what a fantastic battle it's been for Bruno Giacomelli today. He's never broken a sweat. He's just got the job done. When others have faltered around him, Hill led and went out. Dalmas led and went out. And now it's all come to this man. Bruno Giacomelli takes the victory in the pre-qualifying race in the Go Bobbert UK Cup. Giacomelli gets through. And so LaRousse Lola will be in the Grand Prix. But what about the teams that are going to get 2nd and 3rd? I think it's going to be stalemate the way things are. Leto has not made the mistake, nor has Fangio. Katayama still waiting in case there is one. And they've got 4 corners to negotiate technically. Into the bus stop they come. But it looks to me as though JJ Leto is going to bring the Monteverdi Onyx, only just mind, into 2nd position. And it's going to be the Monteverdi Onyx that gets through and the Eurobrun that gets through. What a dramatic finish to this pre-qualifier here at Imola.
Absolute fantastic race in the end. Nail biter from start to finish. Action-packed through and through.
And look at that, fastest lap from Schumacher. Well, he's shown us what he can do, but frustration for the German. He'll be bitterly disappointed. Well, there you go. Race is over, and a very dramatic end for Zach Speed and for the Reynard team as their chances fade in the final couple of laps. There you go. Giacomelli takes the win from JJ Leto and Juan Fangio the second. Ukyo Katayama is fourth ahead of Johnny Herbert and a very frustrated Michael Schumacher, who could have and probably should have been second. Yannick Dalmas is seventh from Pierluigi Martini, and then Christian Fittipaldi is ninth ahead of the Zach Speed of Joachim Winkelhock. 10 teams in the top 10 places. Tarquini out, Ratzenberger, Ribbs and Blundell likewise. Warwick so close to a victory at one stage. He could have got the job done here today. McNish is 16th ahead of Pirro in the Real. Ginzani's Zach Speed didn't go the distance, nor did Menu, who was having a great race until his suspension went. Those curbs really costing a lot of teams today. Moreno in the Eurobrunn and Johansson in the Monteverdi Onyx had engine failures. Then Damon Hill, Martin Brundle, Aguri Suzuki, Alessandro Zanardi and Mike Thackwell all out on the first few laps of the race. They were all out by lap 4. But a new star is born. Look at that. Michael Schumacher half a second quicker in the final lap. Enraged and frustrated, but able to showcase what he can do to the world. We certainly won't forget his name in a hurry, and he's looking very, very strong as a future contender at the top end of the dais. That is an astonishing display, and some really good talent there, mixing it up in the mix there, Ryan. But we now know that Michael Schumacher is a name to watch for in the future.
Yes, and I bet you all of the top teams have just seen that race and gone, he's definitely someone to consider. I did hear rumours about Tyrrell being quite interested in him as well, so it definitely looks like there could be a fight for his seat in the future.
Well, of course, there is still more great race battle. We've had the second tier qualifying race at 50% distance where the top 3 progress. Stick around, ladies and gentlemen, because the next race you'll see is the 1990 San Marino Grand Prix.
What music!
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready?
The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it.
Attaboy. Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind? That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like it being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm going to give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan will cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when he runs it close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it, those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm going to give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm going to shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this. And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me?
It won't be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darren Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
But hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. You sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there. Out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes. Every gear change, every corner. Perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do. It's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
fine. Then let's race.
So, drama then here at Imola as we have LaRousse, Lola, Monteverde, Onyx and Eurobrun qualifying for the main event when it looked like it was going to be Reynard and Zach Speed that would join LaRousse, Lola in the footage. But that just goes to show, doesn't it, Ryan, that you cannot count on anything until that checkered flag flies.
Certainly, and what a barnstorming finish we had for those last positions on the grid in this Grand Prix today. I am absolutely ecstatic to see what's going to happen in this Grand Prix.
So we've now got 61 laps for the Grand Prix of San Marino, and it is going to be a fascinating battle as the cars get themselves ready for this Grand Prix 2 World Championship encounter Ayrton Senna gets the pole position once again for the third race in a row, but not by much. His Brazilian countryman Mauricio Gugelmin is really getting up to speed now, and he's giving him massive pressure. The second McLaren of Gerhard Berger lines up third on the grid, with Thierry Boutsen in the Williams lining up in P4. Then it's Jean Alesi in the Red Bull Tyrrell Honda, along with Nelson Piquet in the Benetton. Then Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham alongside Riccardo Patrese in the second Williams. Ivan Capelli in the second Leighton House alongside the leading Ferrari of Alain Prost. They're still a long way from the pace. Derek Warwick and Alessandro Nannini on the sixth row of the starting grid. Lotus versus Benetton. Nigel Mansell in the second Ferrari alongside Stefano Modena on the second Brabham. Then it's Martin Donnelly alongside Bruno Giacomelli in the LaRousse Loader. Right up in P16 on the grid, Ricard Rydell in the second Tyrrell. Eddie Cheever in the leading Ligier is 18th alongside Adrian Fernandez in the Arrows is Nicola Larini in the second Ligier. Aguri Suzuki in the LaRousse Loader lines up beside Michele Alboreto in the second Arrows. Stefan Johansson and JJ Leto in the Onyxes a little way from the pace. And the Eurobruns of Roberto Moreno and Juan Fangio II fill up the back of the grid. This is going to be a sensational battle, but the big question here, Ryan, is can Ayrton Senna deliver the goods and win for McLaren at the third attempt this year from pole position?
Hopefully he's got a good track record here, but will that engine hold together?
Here we go! The 1990 San Marino Grand Prix is underway. It's a cracking start from Thierry Boutsen in the Williams. He automatically launches forward and grabs the advantage. We're on board with Senna as they go into Tabarello, and Gugelmin's getting alongside him round the outside. Can he grab the lead here? Gugelmin is a few millimetres in front, and the Leighton House is going to try and break cover in front of Senna. He's done it! He's done it! Mauricio Gugelmin takes the lead in the Leighton House. An absolutely brilliant start as the two Brazilians head into Tosa for the first time, and it's an absolute flyer as Capelli, problems there. That's a rear wing that's gone flying. It is Capelli's. So the Leighton House has got a lead, but another one is in the wars in the pits coming in very shortly. So Gugelmin leads from Senna, Boutsen, Berger and Alesi, but Capelli is going to start going backwards down the field. In fact, he's been nudged there by Patrese, as Capelli may not even be aware of the fact that he's got no rear wing. He will be now that he's slipped his way through the corner. But this is an absolute disaster as Mansell has got past his teammate Prost at the start, and the Ferraris are a long way from pace. Fernandez struggling in front of the two LaRousse Lolas, so not a great start in the end from Giacomelli. But Mauricio Gugelmin leads here at Imola.
Well, I would not have thought of that when we started this Grand Prix. Obviously, Senna tried having another go back at him out of Tosa, but Gugelmin holding on to that lead.
Well, Piquet struggling in the chicane as Nicola Larini is trying to keep others at bay as they come through the chicane together now. It looks as though Le Ligier's made a decent start. In fact, both Ligiers have made a good start here. They are 13th and 15th as Larini gets past Capelli. But Gugelmin in the Leighton House leads the way. I tell you what, there is a very, very chuffed team boss there at Leighton House after a thrilling opening lap from Mauricio Gugelmin. But that is exactly the start that our team boss there was hoping for at Leighton House. Andrew Sanson going well as Mauricio Gugelmin leads the way from Senna, Boutsen, Berger, Hakkinen, Alesi, Patrese, Piquet, Warwick and Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari ahead of his world champion teammate. And here comes Mansell having a go at the inside of Warwick in the Lotus. Fair play to the Lotus. Prost in trouble again. Gearbox failure for the Ferrari yet again as Alain Prost cannot even complete the opening stint of a Grand Prix. On lap 2, he is out of the race as Capelli pits. Alain Prost is slow and out.
Well, I think those rumours that we've been hearing circulate in the paddock of him wanting to go elsewhere may be true, especially after today.
That is so embarrassing from Alain Prost's point of view, having 3 straight retirements for the Ferrari team. Admittedly, the latter of those, he still managed to score points at Phoenix, but that was only in mitigating circumstances. So Prost retires from a Grand Prix for the 3rd race in a row. It is not looking good at Ferrari. Mauricio Gugelmin leads the race, but only by 0.8 of a second. Senna is still giving him plenty of pressure in the early stages. Senna is not letting his countrymen get away.
Yes, and also Boutsen still hanging on the back of this group. We seem to have a breakaway 3 for this fight for the lead.
Well, it's worth remembering that all 3 of these cars have the same engine. All of them running Hondas, of course. The Leighton House team taking the engines after the opening round of the championship in Phoenix. Ayrton Senna and the McLaren team already had it, and very publicly. Williams parted company with Renault after just 1 race into 1990. They activated the veto in their clause and they managed to get Honda in from the second race of the season, as Mansell has another crack at Derek Warwick. Again, he can't quite make the way through, but with the Brabham of Mika Hakkinen running solidly there in position as well in the Brabham Honda. It's worth pointing out that with Tyrrell going down the same route as well, the top 6 cars all have Honda engines.
Yes, and they're definitely fast engines, but as we've seen with the McLarens, they're not necessarily the most reliable.
We've seen that with several teams in the fray as well. It's not just one car that's not able to get the Honda to the flag every time. The Honda engine, while being quick, is not the most competitive, as there goes Mansell. Mansell and the Ferrari moves up to 9th place. So Nigel Mansell, or Il Leone, as he is very quickly becoming known here in Italy. He's become a Ferrari hero very quickly for the team. He won their opening Grand Prix of 1989, of course, at Jacarepaguá in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil last year. He booked a flight home early because he didn't think he would make the flag, but he won the race. So he's become a hero in Italy very, very quickly. As Ayrton Senna in 2nd position at the moment. Up, and Leto spins the Monteverde Onyx. Oopsie-daisy. And the Eurobruns, I was just going to say, the Eurobruns were very fortunate to spot that in time because they almost went straight into the back of the car.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happened there. Obviously, outbroke himself into the chicane, potentially got all the gears all wrong, and very much like we saw in the first race, a spin.
So Mauricio Gugelmin leads the San Marino Grand Prix. It's the first time he's ever led a Grand Prix, as Adrian Fernandez is going well. Oh, is Eddie Cheever in trouble? Suspension failure for the Ligier. That's unfortunate, because that car was looking a lot more competitive today than it had been in the earlier races. So the Ligier is definitely getting stronger. It didn't suit the Interlagos circuit. It definitely suits the European race circuit, certainly here in Imola. But unfortunately, a suspension failure means that Eddie Cheever is out of the race. Oh, and that's an Arrows, is it?
Looks to be.
Now, who is that? It's Alboreto, yet again. So Cheever out of the race, and Alboreto is going to join him on the sidelines. So that is disappointment already building here at Imola, and this is only lap 4.
Yeah, and it definitely, the attrition we saw in the Go Bobby race, somewhat transferring over to the main Grand Prix as we see at the moment.
Well, obviously, the slower cars in the field are going to be the ones more brittle. So it's not a massive surprise or shock to see the Ligier and the Arrows pull off the road, but it certainly is to see the Ferrari out of the race this early on, and certainly to be the car that's out on only lap 2 in the shape of Alain Prost is very unfortunate form from their perspective. But here's Senna running in 2nd place behind Mauricio Gugelmin, who has extended the gap to 1.5 seconds. There he is, look. Gugelmin has stretched out the attack here in the Leighton House. They could be about to win their first Grand Prix.
It'd be interesting. I didn't quite catch it if you already had. What the fuel strategies are. Is Gugelmin running a lighter fuel load than Senna?
Well, it's definitely worth having a look at. We will pick that up very shortly. Here's Nannini getting his move on the inside of Giacomelli, but he can't make it stick. So Nannini's had a terrible start to the race, it has to be said, for the Benetton. Rather unfortunate, but both he and Piquet were victims of circumstance in the opening tours. Now Senna looks like he's going on a one-stop strategy. Now that is interesting. So Senna obviously trying to get the car through to just a one-stopper. And you are right there, Ryan. It looks as though it's a 2-stopper at the least for Mauricio Gugelmin. So he's taking advantage of the fact that he's got a light car. But Senna is keeping within firing distance of the Leighton House. And with one pit stop, Senna is still on the long haul to be looking the favourite for the victory here.
Yes, and Gugelmin doing what he needs to do, pulling out that gap bit by bit, but is it going to be enough?
Well, that is going to be the big question. Boutsen is only going to be into the pits at about the same sort of time frame as Senna, so he's also looking likely to be on a one-stop strategy. Berger, though, they've decided to split strategies at McLaren. Berger is on the 2-stop strategy, so it's looking pretty tasty from his point of view. The McLaren will be pretty quick. And now that he's settling into a rhythm, we should see him get onto the back bumper of Boutsen. This is a fabulous little battle. We've got Hakkinen in the Brabham, Alesi in the Tyrrell, and Piquet in the Benetton. Now, Piquet, of course, is a race winner. He won last time out in Brazil. Hakkinen there in the Honda-powered Brabham. He really has unlocked the potential of this car. And let's not forget, a couple of seasons ago, this car wasn't even racing. he's gone long on the strategy. Alesi's gone shorter, but still not short. So they're both looking at one-stop strategies. PK is in real trouble here in 7th place because he looks like he's on a 2-stopper and he's stuck behind these two very heavy tankers in 5th and 6th position. Mansell, however, what's he going to be doing in the race? Patrese just in front of him. Patrese looking set for, well, it could still be a 2-stopper, that one, in terms of strategy. Mansell is on a 2-stopper, that's for sure. But the Ferrari could really do with being higher up to make it work.
Yes, and that is...
Oh, it's Donnelly. It's Donnelly in the Lotus. Well, that's a crushing blow for you there, Ryan, unfortunately. As Donnelly, how did he do it? Let's have a look as he comes into the chicane, locks the car over the curb. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Well, that's an unexpected pit stop, so unfortunate for Martin Donnelly, having now got past his teammate Warwick. And another man we should pick up on in terms of how well he's done thus far is this man, Rickard Rydell. He's about to storm by into P10 and the final championship point in the Tyrrell. But the last couple of times he's been in this position, it's because a lot of other drivers have fallen off the road. This time, Rydell really seems to have got the knack of this Tyrrell and is starting to fly around. He's ahead of a lot of talented drivers. He's ahead of Warwick, he's ahead of Modena, Donnelly, Nannini, Fernandez. He's done a great job so far, Rickard Rydell.
Certainly, and when Tyrrell announced that they were signing him, a lot of people were scratching their heads thinking, how come they're giving him a ride? But definitely showing what he's worth and why he is in that Tyrrell seat.
Well, Alesi's got past Hakkinen. I missed that one, unfortunately, but Alesi has got past Hakkinen to go up into P5 in the Tyrrell. And PK is starting to get frustrated behind Mika Hakkinen. He's swarming around all over the shop. Come on, I'm on a 2-stop strategy and you're holding me up now. I need to get through. And Hakkinen has no obligation to do so. He's not a back marker. He doesn't have to get out of the way. There are no flags to get drivers out of the way if they are slow, so you just got to keep pushing. As this San Marino Grand Prix unfolds, it is Nelson Piquet very much in frustration mode. Now here's Thierry Boutsen running well in the Williams until we go back to Suzuki, who was the first retirement in the pre-qualifier, of course, but his teammate Giacomelli was the man who managed to drag the car into the Grand Prix itself. So fascinating battles already so far. There's Boutsen again, just trying to stay with Senna. That's going to be the Williams team's best chance of winning this Grand Prix. If they can stay with Senna, they know that Gugelmin is on a 2-stopper while Senna and Boutsen are on a 1-stopper. And Donnelly, he's only just been into the pits and he's rode the curbs again. He's got to be so careful here, Martin Donnelly, that he doesn't have another accident.
Yes, certainly. Obviously, we
saw hang on. That's Berger. Sorry, that's Berger. Berger's in the pits. Now, what has happened to Gerhard Berger? Because that is not scheduled. That is not a scheduled pit stop. Brake problems again. Now, we did see in the pre-qualifier race, there were a lot of issues with brakes. There are a lot of issues with the suspension. And Gerhard Berger has a brake problem. That's a disaster for the McLaren team.
Yes, and so early into the Grand Prix. We would not expect to see that sort of problem so early for McLaren.
Well, Berger's going to drop out of the top 10. It's going to be a race for a fight back for him now, as Boutsen is alone in P3, a good 11 seconds clear of Alesi in 4th, Hakkinen is 5th, PK is 6th, and Patrese is now to 7th, ahead of Mansell in the Ferrari, Rydell in the Tyrrell, and Derek Warwick in the Lotus.
Yeah, and the problem that PK is going to have is if he doesn't dispatch of Hakkinen soon, he's going to find a fast-charging Patrese in his Williams right on the back of him. But he's having a look up the inside into Aqua Minerale, and he gets the job done. Now he has to catch up onto the back of Alesi.
This is the most motivated I've seen Nelson Piquet since 1987. I have to say, it's great to see that he's back in his best frame of mind again. And the Benetton driver, oh, careful Nelson. I was about to say he's looking for World Championship number 4, but he's just done all that hard work has come undone as he loses the place first to Hakkinen, and now he's going to lose it to the Williams as well. Or was there contact between the two as they came by?
Looked very, very close, but PK, a lot of people would be expecting him to be winding his career down. He's been in the sport for a long time, but obviously starting to show to some of his critics that he's not done and dusted yet.
There was a little tap between them. There was a tap between them as they came through. You could just hear the contact between the two cars as they came through. So Patrese forcing the issue to get past Nelson Piquet. And, well, a big moment there for the 3-time world champion, but Patrese not going to negate any overtaking opportunities he can find. And that was a boisterous manoeuvre. Oh, there's JJ Leto. He's not going to get second place this time. He managed to get one in the pre-qualifying, but the engine has gone in the Monteverde Onyx with the Ford engine. And that is game over for one. Well, here's Ivan Capelli in the second Leighton House Honda. One of the fastest cars in this race. The other one is leading the race, of course, but Capelli had his problems on the opening lap, lost the rear wing, and so the car is going to be a bit of a handful even for the rest of the race now that he has got the rear wing replaced. But it's still going to be a long old race for him. And of course, with cars dropping out of the race left, right and centre, there are only 22 cars running. Capelli and Donnelly at the back of the field, along with the two Eurobruns of Roberto Moreno and Juan Fangio II, who are a long way off the pace, unfortunately, with their Judd engines. Oh, there's someone else in trouble up the hill. Now, who is that? Berger is chasing them as we ride on board with Bruno Giacomelli. Is that the Benetton? Is that Piquet? Oh, it's Nannini. It's his teammate. It's Nannini in trouble. Well, that doesn't bode well for Piquet, does it?
Definitely not. And the second Ford engine to go bang in 2 laps.
Very good point. And this is only lap 9 of the San Marino Grand Prix, of course. So Nelson Piquet is still running, but Alessandro Nannini loses a potential charge for the points as Giacomelli gets past him. And Nicola Larini in the Ligier is going to get through next. But Alessandro Nannini, I think, just trying to get the car, potentially trying to get the car to the finish as Berger gets his move on the inside of Larini down the hill. Well, he tries to, but Larini has no obligation to let him through. This is getting silly now from Alessandro Nannini. I know it will be frustrating that he can't finish the race, but he needs to get off the race circuit now. The engine is well and truly gone, and Berger shakes his fist at Alessandro Nannini. He knows that the car is smoking. He knows the car is done. Surely he should just get off the race circuit.
Definitely, and and he's starting to hold up the guys at the bus stop. This is really poor driving from Nannini here.
Well, this is definitely something that could well be looked into. Alessandro Nannini, though, still motoring with a car smoking badly. And surely that thing is not going to run. This is the highest point of the circuit. And there you go. The engine note dies as Berger gets his move on Larini up towards Villeneuve. And it looks as though Suzuki is going to go wheel to wheel with Johansson as they battle for position. But Nannini well and truly out of this Grand Prix as Martin Dodley gets through. But that's Nannini's race over on the run to Villeneuve. And the Benetton manages to tour round pretty much an entire lap with the engine flailing.
That's pretty impressive, that. Obviously, there's a lot of lubricants involved in that engine running, and as it expires, it still manages to go a whole lap.
Well, Gugelmin is your race leader, 2.8 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna. Patrese is in 5th place now. Look at the battle going on behind for 6th place. We've got Häkkinen, Piquet, and now Mansell. Mansell has caught them in the Ferrari, and the fans are spurring him on. Never mind the Italian drivers, they want a Ferrari up in the top end, so they are giving Mansell all the support and the motivation they possibly can to try and get the British driver further up the road. But Piquet's going to have a go. He's going to lose traction and a little bit of momentum as well. So surely Nigel Mansell now is going to have a look to come by past Nelson Piquet. So Mansell is in the slipstream. Can he make it work, Ryan?
He goes up the inside. He looks like it's got it done and dusted into Tosa. And obviously Mansell, being in the Ferrari, not having the best of luck so far, must have all fingers and toes crossed at the moment as he puts on a brilliant charge from 13th on the grid.
Well, Mansell doing everything he can, and the crowd absolutely euphoric when they watch Piquet going through. There's a big grandstand just here at the bottom of Acqua Minerale, and the noise is already pretty thunderous as they go by. Mansell doing what he can with the equipment he's got in front of him. They definitely need a little bit of a booster though, don't they, Ferrari? Apparently there is going to be some improvements to the car ahead of Monaco, the next round of the championship, where horsepower is not actually going to be a massive game changer. It's all going to be about car control, and the best drivers are really going to be the ones to watch at Monaco. Here's Senna. The gap has opened up to 3.2, but it's not a panic for the Brazilian. He's on a one-stop strategy, as is Boutsen behind him. Gugelmin, we think, is on a two-stop at the very least. It could well even extend to a three-stopper. But certainly for the moment, Senna is not in any panic and not in any danger here as he leads the race. Gugelmin, meanwhile, is starting to lap back markers. He gets past the Eurobrun of Fangio II. And Gugelmin, well, this is a star in the making as well, isn't it?
Definitely. Senna just having to, just lightly guide the car along without making too much mistake, keeping Gugelmin in sight, because obviously Gugelmin has to make one extra stop. And we want to see, did I just see Gugelmin's just pitted?
It's Giacomelli.
Giacomelli.
It's Giacomelli into the pits. So Giacomelli comes in, and that's a brake issue for him as well now. So they're going to have to find a way to cool the car down. And they do say, you know, brakes are a big premium here. You've got a lot of long straights into some very big hairpins. As Capelli dives up the inside and moves into 15th place now. He's made the move on Johansson. There's still only 21 cars remaining in this San Marino Grand Prix. Mansell! Oh, no! Engine failure for Mansell. He was doing such a good job. But that Ferrari is just not up to scratch in 1990 thus far. They're going to have to make some changes. They're going to have to make some improvements ahead of Monaco. Ferrari are definitely looking in trouble.
Yes, indeed. It's not particularly great, especially in front of the Italian crowds. Not even make it to their first pit stop. And yes, both Ferraris out. What a frustrating time it is.
And to not even get to the first pit stop sequence for either car is very, very difficult for the team indeed. Now, the marshal here is obviously trying to bring the car to a particular point on the circuit. He's obviously had to negotiate. I think there's actually quite a large grass mound there, so they've actually had to negotiate the car around that because of where he stopped. Oh, that's a mistake for Modena in the Brabham. So Stefano Modena is going to have a real issue here, as behind him we've got Derek Warwick bearing down in the Lotus with its new Renault engine. And that is definitely going to have some pace now as he comes up behind the Brabham. Now this is Honda power versus Renault power. And surely Warwick is going to have an answer to this. He's not quite able to squeeze in on the inside, but you definitely get the sense that Renault power is getting better with every single outing. Of course, Williams deciding to turn their back on Renault for this season, as they were initially going to go right the way to the end of 1990 with the... as Adrian Fernandez has got Berger lining him up. And this is for position, of course, after Berger's brake problems earlier. So Berger having to fight his way back, and on the inside, like Modena overcooks it again in the Brabham in front of Derek Warwick. Very frustrating, as Berger does indeed get past Adrian Fernandez. So the Mexican now finds himself in 12th place, but Berger is working his way back through the field. But Stefano Modena in the Brabham really struggling to keep Derek Warwick at bay as Warwick piles on the pressure.
Indeed, and obviously Senna would be somewhat frustrated that his rear gunner Berger isn't there, as he was closing in on Boutsen. I believe Berger and Boutsen were meant to be on the same strategy, as Donnelly makes up a position.
Yep, that's the Lotus getting through on the LaRousse Lola, and it's the Ligier up the road of... no, sorry, it's not the Ligier in front. That is the... I think that's Eddie... No, it's not Eddie Cheever. I do apologise. I couldn't quite keep track of that one, as Piquet tries again on Mika Hakkinen and can't make it stick. Look how much time Hakkinen is costing the guys in this race. Alessi was behind him, and Alessi is now 8 seconds clear up the road. Patrese having already got through, and Hakkinen is holding up Nelson Piquet on the heavier fuel strategy of that Brabham, as Warwick locks up, trying to get through on the inside there of Stefano Modena. Has not been able to squeeze by, and Piquet has finally made the move on Hakkinen, I do believe. Yes, he has. So Hakkinen is now going to lose ground to Piquet, who disappears up the road. But it's too little too late for the Brazilian, because he's lost half a minute.
Yes, that's a great chunk of time. And it looks like it was done at Acqua Minerale. So it seems to be one of the favourite places to overtake in this race.
Now this man has been turning some heads this weekend. Adrian Fernandez, the new man in at Arrows. His teammate Michele Alboreto already out of the race, the former Ferrari driver. But Fernandez is new for 1990, and the young Mexican is really starting to showcase his skills. A lot of people thought he would go the way of Indy cars, but he seems to have settled into his berth at Arrows very well. The team is already singing his praises, and team boss Ben Haxon has nothing but good things to say about Adrian Fernandez's performance thus far this year. They just need to get the car working a little bit better, but certainly in terms of their driving strength, Fernandez has proved to be a good choice alongside Alboreto. Alboreto has even been looking over his shoulder in the garage to see what the young Mexican has been up to in terms of data collection and strategy, but it's a fascinating situation to see the young whippersnapper creep in and hustle the main event in the team. Now, Gugelmin is 3 seconds clear of Senna. I think Gugelmin's had some trouble trying to lap Roberto Moreno in the Eurobrun, having already got past Juan Fangio II quite a long time ago, who, of course, is in his first Grand Prix. Let's not forget that. He's been in pre-qualifying since the start of the year, of course, but the Eurobrun team, starting their first race of 1990, and therefore Juan Fangio II making his Grand Prix debut as Berger gets the move on the inside of Warwick. No major dramas for him there as he bides his time into Aqua Minerale. But Mauricio Gugelmin is 3 seconds clear of Ayrton Senna in the McLaren. The top 5 cars in this race all have Honda engines, and it's Gugelmin in the Leighton House, Senna in the McLaren, Boutsen in the Williams, Alessi in the Tyrrell, the other Williams of Riccardo Patrese in P5, and then Nelson Piquet in the Benetton Ford. From Mika Hakkinen, Richard Riedel, Stefano Modena, and now Gerhard Berger back into 10th place after his earlier brake issues.
Berger really putting on the charge. Had he not had those brake issues, it would have been the top 6 being Honda powered. But I wonder how long it will be until one of those Honda engines do expire.
So this is going to be a fascinating phase of the race now as we get towards the pit stop sequence. And Gugelmin might even be looking at a 3-stop strategy the way he's currently going on pace as his teammate Capelli comes into the pits. Now this will be indicative of how quick the Leighton House team can be in the pits. Now this is an interesting pit stop to watch, not for the play of the race, but for how good Leighton House are in terms of their fuel strategy and how good their mechanics are at getting their man in and out in good time. This needs to be a good stop. It's 10.1. It's not as fast as it needs to be, really. They could do with a better pit stop for Gugelmin when the time comes.
Yeah, we were seeing pit stops of around 8.5 to 9 seconds in the Go Bobby race. And yes, that was a slow stop, anything 10 seconds and over.
So Roberto Moreno comes into the pits in the Eurobrun, but there is Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian. Here's Piquet lapping Juan Fangio II in his Eurobrun. And we ride on board with the Woolworths Chad Valley machine, who is still going well in his first Grand Prix. It's obviously going to be an uphill climb from here for the Eurobrun team with their underpowered Judd engines, but they did bring the car home in the top 3. It might have been through others' misdemeanours, but the age-old saying that Ron Dennis was heard saying recently, to finish first you must finish. As into the pits comes Richard Riedel, the Tyrrell driver from P8. So that's the first of the major competitors in that fight, as Berger has a look at Stefano Modena, and Modena has nothing to give him in terms of a gap. Now here's Hakkinen, and he's dueling it out again. This time it is with a back marker, so Hakkinen has been able to stretch away, but the Brabhams are 7th and 8th. It's been quite a good turnaround for the Brabham team in the last couple of years. Their team manager, Ewan Gale, clearly getting some good things out of this particular car, and their testing program is quite comprehensive as well. Satoru Nakajima, the Japanese star, is their test driver with a lot of experience with the Honda engine. It's Gugelmin pits. Here we go. So this one is a significant pit stop for the way the race plays out. Stop. Got to get a decent stop. It's got to be quicker than 10 seconds. They really need to make good use of the opportunity that they've been given here. Gugelmin running around. It's a better stop. 9.3. That will do. That will do. And where does he filter out? 3rd position in front of Jean Alesi's Tyrrell. That is not bad going at all for Mauricio Gugelmin. He can cope with that.
Yeah, and he's got a good gap over Alesi's Tyrrell, so it doesn't look like he's going to have much problem as he warms up the tyres on this opening lap.
All the pressure is on this guy, isn't it? Ayrton Senna. He's just watched his main championship rival Prost retire from a Grand Prix for the 3rd time running. He has failed to finish both of the first 2 races at Phoenix and Interlagos, and he was the man looking good for the victory on both occasions. So Imola is such an important race for Senna to win.
Yes, and he's been on pole for both of those races, and he's led both of those races, and he's not finished as that looks to be. Is that another car on with an engine expiring?
It is indeed. Is that an Arrows? Is that Fernandez? I think that might be Fernandez about to retire from the race. It is indeed. That's a shame. Well, Fernandez was going well today, and that hands 11th place over to the battle between the Ligier of Nicola Larini and the Lotus of Martin Donnelly, as Fernandez goes very wide indeed and drops oil down at the top of the hill. So that could be a bit of an issue for the others out there, but Riedel goes through without issue. But Fernandez, I'm afraid, ends the Arrows day early.
Yeah, and he pulls over to a very good spot. We saw earlier in the Go Bobby race that we saw one of the cars pull over on the wrong side of the road at the top of the blind crest, which caused a colossal accident. And so it was great to see that we didn't have a repeat of that.
No, indeed. Fernandez doing the best he could in the situation as Johansson locks up in the chicane, and no wonder he's trying to shake off Aguri Suzuki. Meanwhile, Warwick comes into the final chicane. Berger is in the pits. Now, this is a scheduled pit stop for Berger. So this time he's having a proper pit stop as Nelson Piquet comes out of the pits in front of Derek Warwick. So that is about right for Piquet. He could really have afforded a little bit more time to play with. But the difference, of course, is that the Ford engine, which is not as powerful as the Renault in the back of that Lotus, is not yet up to speed. Warwick could chuck it up the inside. He thinks better of it. But he certainly had potential there, and he's keeping himself very much in the hunt. It's Senna leading, Boutsen second, Gugelmin is third. But Gugelmin on a lighter fuel load is still able to get these tyres up to good temperature. He should be able to take back the lead when Senna pits. The big question is going to be, what sort of a battle is he going to have on his hands when he makes his second and final pit stop?
Well, he's pitted very early because we believe Boutsen's on a two-stop strategy, isn't he? So,
oh, that's true.
Gugelmin could be on a three-stop.
He could be on a three-stop. That's a good point, because he pitted a few laps before 1/3's distance, didn't he? So he could, you're right, he could go for a three-stopper. Let's look at his fuel load for Gugelmin as he heads down to Tosa. 20 laps left. That takes him to about lap 39 on a dry tank. He may decide to go a bit earlier than that. So you're right, it could still be, it seems unlikely, but it could still be a three-stop strategy for Gugelmin. He's got to make good use of the pace he's got in the car, obviously, as Suzuki is about to lose position to his teammate. That's Giacomelli getting through as they get stuck behind the Monteverdi Onyx of Johansson, and Fangio the second's Eurobrun comes into the pits. It was his teammate Moreno shortly ago. Giacomelli tries to dive on the inside of another experienced hand, Johansson, and it doesn't quite work out.
And obviously on the back of this is a recovering Capelli after losing his rear wing on the first lap.
Yeah, and that's a real knife edge of a position for him to be in, but it just shows you the difference in the competition levels of the pre-qualifying teams compared to the top 10s, because you've got a minute between Senna in first and Larini in 10th position, and these top 10 cars really are quick.
And we did just see quite a substantial lock-up from Senna coming out of the butt stop chicane just then. Obviously, as you said, maybe starting to feel the pressure. Being in this third race of the season without a win, and there's a win on the cards once again.
Yeah, he cannot afford not to win this one from his point of view. Psychologically, it would be devastating for his 1990 championship title aspirations. His only comfort at the moment really is that Piquet, who is leading the championship by 1 point, is currently in 8th place, and Berger, who is second, is in 12th place. So if he gets the win, he'll be starting to catch up to their points tallies a little bit, but they have a win and a second apiece, Piquet and Berger, and are almost dead level in the title fight. So there's still a long way to go, obviously, in 1990, and Piquet and Berger are not going to win everything by virtue of the fact that they haven't won everything so far in these two races at the start of the year, and it looks like neither driver is going to be on the pace enough to get a Grand Prix win this time. Senna leads 6 seconds clear of the Williams of Thierry Boutsen. This is his teammate Riccardo Patrese, the Italian, who is in 5th place, about 6 seconds down the road from Jean Alesi, the French Sicilian in the Red Bull Tyrrell Honda. The top 5 cars, in fact at this moment the top 7 cars, are all Honda powered.
And that really does show that the mechanics and all the technicians at the factory at Honda have really invested a lot of time in their research and development in making such a fast engine, and to have also all the top 7 completely locked out by Honda power is quite amazing, to be honest.
Well, there is some discussion about 1991 in terms of if a manufacturer team were to run engines heading into the 1991 season, then that team would be limited to only having 2 customers for the 1991 season. And there are rumours circulating that Honda, with all the hard work they're doing in 1990, and they clearly have the fastest engine on the grid, they want to come in 1991 as a works factory engine and team. Now that would be fascinating. It would be the first time that Honda had entered as a factory outfit since the 1960s. Oh, is that Capelli getting his move there? is indeed getting his way past the Eurobrinn to lap it. But no, to go back to the Honda story, obviously they only ever won one Grand Prix back in the day, and they would love to come back in as a factory outfit in the same guise as Ferrari and basically do what they have achieved. As Johansson comes into the pits, and here's Piquet getting his move on Modena, and he did get the move done, I should point out, but we jumped to Senna at the wrong moment there, but Senna's still going well. Now what that's going to do, interestingly, is it will affect the balance of Formula One quite significantly if the Brabham, the Leighton House, the McLaren and the Williams, they all want Honda engines heading into 1991. And there's only going to be, if Honda does enter as a works manufacturer team, as Porsche have done, as Ferrari have done, then they're only going to be supplying 2 customer teams. So which 2 teams would get the power supply? Oh, and that's Donnelly making a mistake right in the path of Ayrton Senna. That could have been very nasty indeed.
Definitely, and that's the problem when you're coming up to lap what is being quite a competitive field, that they are squabbling for position. You've got to try and pick the right moment to thread the iron needle.
Well, Modena pits in from P8 after his nice little tussle there with Nelson Piquet, and that's going to drop Modena out of the top 10 for the moment. He should rejoin round about where Nicola Larini currently is. We've got Berger currently there in P10 as Modena now makes his way down the pit road. So Modena watches Berger and Rydell go through, and there is Modena right in the path of Nicola Larini. So as I expected, the Italians are on track together now as Senna cuts his way up the inside of the LaRousse Lola, who does not give him enough space. And that is a very frustrated Ayrton Senna. Again, getting very, very impatient there with the back markers. Suzuki not doing him any favours.
Certainly, that's the other problem, as we have Boutsen in the pits at the moment.
So that's the man in second place. So Gugelmin obviously moving into second position. Now this will be telling from Boutsen. Will he get out in front of Alesi? He should get out in front of his teammate Patrese, but Alesi is going down the pit straight. In fact, no, Alesi in the Red Bull Tyrrell has gone through into third position, no problem. And there is the Williams coming out of the pit lane. Boutsen in front of teammate Patrese, but rejoins in fourth. So that is about where we expected them to come out again, but most notably as well, that's before the half distance mark for the Williams. So if the Leighton House might be on a 3-stopper, might Boutsen and Senna be on a 2-stop strategy rather than a 1-stop?
We'll have to see how far Senna goes at the moment. I'm not sure how many laps he's got left of fuel. But also this is an opportunity for Boutsen, if he is on a 2-stop strategy, to go absolutely hell for leather in this stint to see if he can close the gap to Senna when he has backed pit stop.
So the battle is raging for Ayrton Senna. He's really struggling behind the traffic. He doesn't want to lose too much time. He's got this battle going on with him and Mauricio Gugelmin for the lead of the race. Gugelmin is only 11 seconds behind him, and even Alesi is 21 seconds behind him. So as it stands now, if Senna were to make a pit stop any time in the next couple of laps, and I have a feeling he's got a light enough fuel load that he'll need to consider it, he's going to rejoin, I think, in third position, not second, and that is going to be a problem for Senna long term. He's going a bit further into the race though, and he's setting personal best first sectors there. So Senna still pushing. He knows that Gugelmin is on a lighter fuel load. Patrese in the Williams comes into the pits. That should get him out behind Piquet, I would have thought. As Donnelly continues this battle with Aguri Suzuki, a lap down. Oh, he's hit him! Donnelly has hit the back of the LaRousse Lola. A bit of bodywork comes off the back of the LaRousse, and not the Lotus. Well, the Lotus gets away with it, but that is surely something that might need to be looked into again a bit later, as Donnelly goes straight into the back of the LaRousse, and you can see that a section of the rear wing is now missing from Aguri Suzuki's LaRousse Lola. That's very controversial.
Well, I don't really know who to portion blame on there, particularly, especially as there's a particular team manager sat in the
It's a hard one box. It's a hard one for you to gauge. I can understand.
But yeah, the way I look at that was Donnelly had the apex. He persistently stayed on the apex when trying to go up the inside. Obviously, it was a bit optimistic, but he held his line where Suzuki tried to shut the door on. So I'm not 100% sure who to portion blame on that.
It is a very tricky situation there, and that's definitely one for the stewards to investigate.
Is that Modena or someone with a front
I
wing
think
missing?
you're right. Yeah, it is. Modena's had a problem. So let's see if we can figure out. Oh, it's happened quite a long time ago, actually, in the lap. So Modena, you're right. Modena is being lapped, having had his pit stop, and he was just in front of Larini. So Stefano Modena, that is not good news. And you know what? That's really quite detrimental to the team as well. Oh, Gugelmin getting held up now by the LaRousse Lola. He was catching Senna. Now he's getting held up by him quite aggressively there as Hakkinen in the Brabham very nearly joins his teammate in the wars. But Gugelmin is going to lose a couple of seconds behind that LaRousse. Look, that's down. The gap is up to 12.3 seconds as Suzuki pits in with a damaged car. Modena likewise. And Thierry Boutsen is going to get up the inside and make the move there as well. So, wow, some big moments in this race as Boutsen laps Stefan Johansson in the Monteverdi Onyx. But Ayrton Senna dodging the Flotsam and Jetsam for the moment as Berger, there in 9th position, is still trying to fight back. Look at how much time Berger has lost through this race. He's a minute behind his teammate.
And he's also found himself having a bit of a wheel banging and argy-bargy with some of the back markers and found himself in some really tight and tricky situations that he shouldn't really find himself in.
It's always very frustrating when you find yourself in between a rock and a hard place, especially when you're the drivers battling for a Grand Prix victory. That's Gugelmin! That's Gugelmin! Oh no! Gugelmin in trouble. What has happened? Gearbox failure. Gearbox failure for the Leighton House. Mauricio Gugelmin was destined not to win the San Marino Grand Prix, but that makes Ayrton Senna's mission all that more easier. He doesn't have the pressure now from Mauricio Gugelmin's alternative strategy. The man essentially now fighting him for the victory in this Grand Prix is Thierry Boutsen.
Indeed, and we believe either Boutsen's on the same strategy or on doing one extra stop. I think, as it stands at the moment, Boutsen, if Senna were to pit the rate that Boutsen's closing in, he would be ahead of Senna.
Well, yeah, I think Senna's decided to gamble here. Now that Gugelmin is out of the race, he can afford to stick with the gamble. He hasn't pitted yet, has he? All the others have. As Giacomelli exits the pit, I think Senna is going to extend this. Look, he's going all the way to a one-stop strategy. So Senna might be about to take the strategy call of the century here to make an absolute no-brainer become a race-winning strategy. I think Senna's going to go all the way on a one-stop.
It'd be definitely a stretch for him as it stands, but you don't know how it's all going to pan out at the end of the things. What is he going to be thinking? He's obviously thinking there's some of the stress and pressure has been taken off with Gugelmin out, but then it's also going to be playing in the back of his mind that the same sort of situation can happen to him if we see Donnelly getting it all locked up at one of the chicanes.
And a very unfortunate and very crestfallen Mauricio Gugelmin walking away. Absolutely disastrous situation. Mika Hakkinen has been pleasing the new team bosses at Brabham. Ewan Gale, very happy with the way things are going with Hakkinen. He's there in P4 at the moment, and he's not far away from gaining his first podium. This is only his third Grand Prix, don't forget, for Mika Hakkinen. Still a very young charger, but one of the many drivers out of a particular racing stable to come through to Grand Prix racing, and Hakkinen is definitely showcasing his skill. And now looking to be a very competitive racer as his teammate Stefano Modena now runs in behind Jean Alesi in the Red Bull Tyrrell. He's another guy we've got to watch for, and you've got to start thinking that if you're someone like Ferrari and you're in need of a decent pair of hands, perhaps you're spending too much money on one particular driver, Alain Prost, and not enough money in developing the car. Would you consider going for a cheaper option who's as fast in order to gain a little bit more traction in the race car?
Certainly. I think obviously Prost has shown that he can win races and win championships, but because of his high price tag, it means Ferrari, they were trying to sort of find their feet again, because it's been a long time since their last championship, being 79 with Jody Scheckter. They've got to kind of spend more money on the car and not the drivers, it seems.
Well, Mansell is obviously a very expensive chap, but then obviously Prost is even more so. And into the pits comes Senna. So this is it for Ayrton Senna, and he pits at the end of lap 28. Now, he might stretch that to a one-stop. Yeah, look, he's going to go all the way. So that is not only quite brave, but actually quite intelligent from Senna, because he knows that Boutsen and Alesi and co are all going to need to pit again. So Senna has actually worked this pit stop strategy to perfection. I think he's going to get out with the lead, you know. Where's Boutsen? Coming out of the final turn now. So where is Senna going to rejoin in relation? Is Boutsen going to get through? Boutsen just gets by, in fact. So Boutsen has just got by. Now Senna does not need to panic here at all, because he's literally only a few car lengths behind Boutsen, but Boutsen has got to pit again. So if you're Ayrton Senna, you are looking so sweet for the win now.
Yeah, all he has to do is just feather the car back to the finish, and he should have this win done and dusted pretty much.
Well, Jean Alesi pits in the Tyrrell, and that slips him to 6th position, which is about where we expected him to be. Not a bad stop at all from the Tyrrell squad. They are making some giant killing efforts at the moment. Here's Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham, going very well in 3rd position. He's got one more pit stop to make, and that is imminent. Although he may actually decide to go for a 3-stop strategy the way things currently are. Actually, thinking about it, has Hakkinen made a pit stop? I'm not sure he has, you know. I think...
And neither is Warwick in 7th position.
That's true. So neither Hakkinen nor Warwick have made their pit stops. So I think they're going for a 1-stop strategy as well. Here's PK, currently in 4th place. He looks like he's on a 3-stop strategy, but he's not been able to utilise it and make it work. As Giacomelli. Giacomelli is out of the race by the look of it. So we need to look back and see what's happened to Giacomelli. Oh! Ooh. He's had a collision with Modena. That's what happened. Well, dear oh dear. So Modena and Giacomelli coming together. That is a bizarre incident. I really want to see that one again. Well, it looks as though Giacomelli has turned in on Modena and essentially lost his own wheel and pitches Modena into a spin in the Brabham.
Well, I think Modena wasn't Modena behind Giacomelli. I'm not sure on that one.
Well, let's have another look at it. We're going to try and do this rather delicately. Yeah, look, Modena was indeed behind Giacomelli initially, I think. Well, we want to see the incident again, and the best person to see it from is Modena. So if we watch it back again from Modena, Giacomelli's car's already been wheeled away as Modena gets going again. Let's watch again. He's already airborne by this point, and Giacomelli is just overtaken him in the chicane with the spin. So I think that looks to me actually like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. 2 drivers not wanting to relinquish the apex for the corner, and neither man preparing to back down.
Modena's been in the wars a bit in this stint, as he's already lost his front wing.
Yep, there goes Berger, makes the move on Warwick, who of course is one stopping and should be coming into the pits any moment now. He's going a little further into the race than the others, but Berger is on a 3-stopper, as we know. So now, if the McLaren team are smart here, they'll make sure he doesn't have to make a 4th stop, because he obviously had that brake issue early on. Then he made the scheduled pit stop. They could extend it so that his 3rd and final stop is going to take him to the end of the race to minimise the damage. But PK is 4th, Berger is 7th, so it's looking good for the championship contenders. Here's Boutsen, 9/10 of a second ahead of Senna on fresher tyres, but a heavier fuel load.
Now, if I was Senna at the moment, I wouldn't really want to be following Boutsen too closely, because obviously he's going to be getting the dirty air off of the Williams, and that could lead to overheating issues. And obviously, as we know, Senna only just has to, drive round, as Boutsen has to do another pit stop.
And of course, Boutsen has to cut through the traffic, so giving himself a little bit more breathing space would be beneficial too.
Yes, certainly. Not quite sure if what was panning out to be quite a smart move from Senna, unless Senna wants to get the overtake done on track so he can go, yes, I am the fastest. I'm not going to resort to a pit strategy to give me the win here.
Well, Larini is causing a little bit of an issue for the leader, Thierry Boutsen, who is not able to get past him at that point. There goes Senna past him instead. Boutsen having already got through, but Senna's got momentum here. And he's only going to be a couple of tenths of a second behind. That's why Larini's struggling. He's got a throttle problem. And it's struck just as he's gone past the pits. So Larini could be about to end Ligier's race early. But Senna is right up with Boutsen. The scream of the Honda engine at top throttle as PK pits in from P4. Patrese goes through instantly. But Senna looks like he does want to play with Thierry Boutsen. He does want to take the lead from him on the road. Oh, and Alesi's out. Alesi's out. What's happened to Jean Alesi? Oh, his suspension failure. He hit the curb on the exit of the corner. He hit the curb there a little too hard on the way in, and it's just popped the suspension out of place there. So a track rod has bent the steering arm, and Jean Alesi out of the race. Disaster.
And that's one of the problems here at Imola, is that the curbs are huge. It's like you're going up the side of a curb on the side of a regular road, let alone a smooth edge, and it really does put pressure and a lot of strain on the suspension components around this circuit.
So yet again, fast driver Jean Alesi. Not a decent points haul for him though, unfortunate. There's Hakkinen in the Brabham, going well in third place. This is a very impressive performance from the Finn, but let's not forget that he does have to make a pit stop before this race is over. Patrese has already made it, I think, and Berger has already made his. So Berger going well, but Berger does need to make a pit stop imminently as well. Now here's Senna. This is the car to watch. On board with Senna, and he's going to have a try with Thierry Boutsen. They're going to get side by side. Oh! And Boutsen slams the door shut in the Brazilian's face.
Yeah, it's very rare you see him going side by side into Tamburello, and you really have to trust the other driver going into such a fast corner. And usually it's the more smarter thing to do is to back out and try again later.
Well, Senna being very wise there as he decides to sit in behind Boutsen and wait for another opportunity. But you do sense that overtaking move is going to come, despite the fact that Boutsen is still due to make a pit stop in the next half dozen laps. But Senna wants to overtake him on the racetrack. He doesn't want to do it through pit stop strategies. That's very uncouth for a red-blooded racing driver like Ayrton Senna. He wants to get through and make the overtaking move in bold racecraft. So Boutsen leads, Senna second, and Senna is pushing to try and take the lead on the road, not in the pit lane.
And this is also a brilliant performance from the Williams team, obviously showing that their move to Honda engines has been a very positive effect on the team, as obviously the Williams not quite on the pace with everyone else when they were running the Renault engines. So definitely looking to be a good move for Williams.
Well, we've had a message through from Tyrrell team boss Sam Hall. They've identified the suspension as a weak area of the car. They have upgrades planned to bring to Monaco. So that could be very interesting to see how the team gets on there. So obviously that's a race that could well play into the hands of a team like Tyrrell as Senna makes his bid. Surely this is going to be the move. He keeps it oh, brilliant. He keeps his foot firmly planted and backs Thierry Boutsen into a corner there. They were dead level at the split. Look at that. To the thousandth of a second as they came across the line side by side. But Senna gets through, and that just shows you how world-class a racing driver the 1988 world champion Ayrton Senna really is. Boutsen coming back at him, though, and he's getting back. Wow. Didn't expect that one, but once Senna got through, I thought that would be it. But Boutsen has got him straight back again. Has Senna got a problem? No, he's just got a heavier car. That's the difference.
Yeah, and obviously it was a block pass move from Boutsen into Aquamarina Rally, gave Senna absolutely nowhere else to go but to stop the car and follow suit behind. So he's lost a lot of time there, but still Senna looking to be the faster car of the two.
And let's be fair, Senna can still play the long game here because Boutsen still needs to make a pit stop and Senna does not. Here is Patrese. Gets through on the inside of the Eurobrun. That is Juan Fangio II, the nephew of Juan Manuel Fangio. And now that is Patrese closing up on Mika Hakkinen to battle for third position. We could have a double Williams podium if Patrese can haul in Hakkinen, especially when you consider the Italian does not need to make another pit stop, I don't think, whereas Hakkinen does. So that could be very interesting. But then Berger also needs to make... into the pits comes Hakkinen. As I say that, Hakkinen in the Brabham comes into the pits. So this is it. This is the moment for the Brabham. His one and only pit stop. He went very long into the race, Mika Hakkinen. But the Finn in his third ever Grand Prix, showcasing his skill and his ingenuity in the car and handling himself a lot better than Stefano Modena. And Berger's in as well. Berger's in as well, by the way. So that's also a critical pit stop for the McLaren. And it's a very important one. As into the pits comes the Lotus. That's Derek Warwick's one and only pit stop as well. So all the one-stoppers other than Senna, just going a little deeper into the race, essentially. Rydell in the Tyrrell was also one stopping. He also comes into the pits. 10.8 seconds for Warwick. So a fascinating strategy call. But Bootson's got one more pit stop to make on his 2-stop, we think, strategy. But Senna is just taking it nice and easy on his 1-stopper. Now there is Aguri Suzuki, the LaRousse Lola, currently running in 13th place. So Aguri Suzuki trying to run there in front of Nicola Larini in the Ligier. Now here's an interesting and wild theory, a bit left field. If Alain Prost were to throw his toys out of the pram and walk out of Ferrari, as there was a hint of suggestion it might be doing at Interlagos, what if a team with patriotism and pride like Ligier were to try and bag the services of Prost? They've got the budget, they've got good backing from their new sponsors. Would they have a temptation to bring in the world champion like Alain Prost? And would he deem to go somewhere like that, or would he want to be in a race-winning car straight away?
It would be interesting. However, Prost wants another championship. He's still hungry for more. And I think going to Ligier, it would be more of a long-term effort to try and get him back to winning ways. So not 100%. It's not a long shot. But if it sounds as it is that Prost is a very hard person to work with, and so not many teams want him.
Oh, that's Warwick! That's Warwick! Oh dear. Not great news for the Lotus. He's still in the pits. He's still in the points though. So the car in front of him is Rydell, a few seconds up the road, and Modena is still there in 11th. And the Lotuses are still both in the points. Donnelly in 7th after all of his shenanigans, and Warwick in P10. So not a bad effort at all from the Lotus squad, if I may say so yourself. Oh, Senna getting held up by the Eurobrun. Now that's not going to help. Roberto Moreno gets out of the way. The car is still going, albeit 2 laps down the order, but that's cost Senna a good 2 seconds of gap there to Thierry Boutsen. Not that it's a big panic, as we mentioned obviously before, because Thierry Boutsen still needs to make another pit stop, as does his teammate Riccardo Patrese. Now, what's going to be crucial here is Piquet, what he will do in the pits. Now, he can go longer, but he's on a 3-stop strategy. So Piquet is not looking so rosy for 3rd place, because he still needs to get more of a gap made to Patrese. And then, of course, there's Hakkinen, who's already made 1 stop. Berger might need to... Well, Berger has just pitted again for the last time. So this is going to be a fascinating battle as to who gets the 3rd and final rung of the podium. It looks like it'll be Senna who wins, Boutsen in 2nd, but 3rd place very much still up for grabs. So here's Larini making his bid on Suzuki. And we're having a really good run to the flag as the battle continues. And Warwick goes high side again! 2nd lap in a row for Derek Warwick. He saves it, but goodness me, there must be some kind of handling difficulty with that Lotus, because that's the 2nd lap in a row he's really struggled with it.
Yeah, he's been fairly solid all race, to be honest, as Warwick. He's kept it on the straight and narrow, and it seems since he's came out of the pits on those new tyres, he hasn't been enjoying something.
It looks like a car issue, certainly not a driver issue, but Warwick still going strong. Here's Capelli making his bid on Donnelly. Keeps his foot in. He's gone to the Ayrton Senna school of overtakes there. And a nice move from Ivan Capelli as he gets past the Irishman, Martin Donnelly, into 7th position. Rydell is still there in 9th place, the sole surviving Tyrrell, as Patrese pits in from 3rd. Now, this is the other big battle in the Grand Prix, so we want to pick this one up. Now, Piquet should go through into 3rd, no trouble. Hakkinen should go through into 4th. But Hakkinen's going to be on older tyres than Patrese. So Patrese can catch him past the Brabham. Where is Piquet? Here he is out of the final. Well, Patrese might beat him out of the pits, actually. It's going to be tight. But Patrese comes out. Piquet just gets through. What about Hakkinen? Where's he going to get out in relation? Now, Hakkinen is behind Patrese, but Patrese is still getting up to speed. So this could be close. But Patrese is hanging on to 4th position for the moment. Hakkinen's got superior power as Moreno pulls out of the race in the Eurobrun. And Patrese going to hang on to it. There is Moreno being craned away down at the back of the field in the Eurobrun. But it looks to me as though for the moment at least, we need to pick up on it. But Patrese has held 4th place in front of Hakkinen. Now that's crucial for the 3rd and final step of the podium. So now we've got Patrese and Hakkinen dueling away for 4th position, but Hakkinen might be able to get up to speed with these tyres a bit quicker than Patrese, who's still on cold tyres, don't forget. So Häkkinen now showcasing what he can do here. And this is going to be a tight one, but Boutsen leads the race. Senna second. Senna doesn't need to pit again. Boutsen does. Piquet in third does need to pit again. Patrese and Häkkinen do not. So Piquet is not looking great for the podium. Patrese and Häkkinen are locked in a battle for it. But Ayrton...
Yeah, and
go for it.
Häkkinen definitely showing that he's definitely got the pace, and also has been doing well in all three races so far this season, showing that he's potentially a future prospect for a championship.
Yeah, he definitely looks to have that same keen and very wily fox aggressive stance to his driving. A lot of people rate Mika Häkkinen very highly, and he's definitely a young gun for future racing prospects, that's for sure. There's a move up ahead, that's Patrese lapping one of the slower cars. Häkkinen switches tack to do the same thing on the Ligier, that is, of Nicola Larini, and gets through. Larini had his problems earlier on, but he has recovered and rejoined on the circuit. That's why the Ligier is not in the points, incidentally, because he had a mechanical problem earlier on in the race, did Nicola Larini. Ligier desperately trying to get as many points in the bag as they can. They definitely scored some points in Phoenix, of course, but they wanted to get a few more points in the bag this early stage of the season. But finishes are still good for prize money, so obviously all the cars that are still running, and there are 15 of them still going, will all want to get to the finish. We've lost Moreno, Alesi in the Tyrrell, Giacomelli in the Larousse Lola, and Mauricio Gugelmin, who was battling for the race victory early on in the Leighton House Honda. Then Fernandez in the Arrows, Nigel Mansell and his teammate Alain Prost were out before the first pit stop phase in their Ferraris. Nannini had an engine failure, Leto had problems, Alboreto likewise, and Eddie Cheever was one of the first retirements from the race, but Prost with a gearbox failure on lap 2. There's going to be a big fallout of Ferrari after that one, and on home soil too.
Yeah, interesting looking on that last lap. Senna has lost half a second to Boutsen on that last lap, so I don't know if he's made a mistake or he's starting to have some trouble with his tyres at the moment.
Well, certainly he's there in second place with no traffic to negotiate, so maybe he did make a little mistake there, but he's 41 seconds clear of Piquet, who still has to make a pit stop. So this is very much rosy times for Ayrton Senna, and Boutsen is coming in. Boutsen in the Williams, so the Williams team preparing for the final pit stop. Now surely this is going to give Williams a crack at second and third in the San Marino Grand Prix, because Boutsen will not win the race the way things are currently stacking up. Senna is leading again, and this is now the furthest into a Grand Prix Senna has gone this 1990 season, so it's finally looking odds on for him. 9.4 seconds, tidy stop for Williams. Boutsen will get out in second place, no trouble, but where's Piquet and when is he pitting? Not this lap, he's still got a bit of a way to go, but he's got to make one more pit stop as Nelson Piquet. He hasn't fueled to the end. So Senna leading, Boutsen second, Piquet third, Ryan.
Yeah, and obviously as we've mentioned many a time, all Senna has to do is just drive to the finish now, with a 20-second gap over Boutsen.
Well, Patrese wants to pass Piquet on the road before he makes his pit stop, and the Brazilian is not going to want to let anything come between him and a decent finish. Gerhard Berger making good progress. The McLaren had brake problems earlier on in the race and had to fall down outside the top 10 with a pit stop to fix the problem. So Berger has recovered to P6 in the McLaren. That's the fight for the championship lead, of course, between Nelson Piquet and Gerhard Berger. And it looks like they're going to finish 5th and 6th in the Grand Prix this time. And of course, with a new point scoring system, that will be a nice 8-point score for whoever finishes in 5th, and a nice 10 points for whoever finishes 5th, and 6 for whoever finishes 8 I should say, I will get it right eventually, for the driver who finishes in 6th place between them. Here's Nelson Piquet, watch behind him because he's got a Williams and a Brabham in fairly close company as Boutsen laps Rydell in second position now, of course, and there's Derek Warwick in the Lotus, who has made his way up into 9th place now, having caught and passed the Tyrrell of Rickard Rydell. And so now the Lotuses are 8th and 9th. That's a haul of 6 points for the team. And for the Constructors' Championship, every point counts. And Lotus obviously bagging some good points solidly early in the season. It will help them out. And I'm sure Ryan will be Very happy about the way that's gone so far for the team, because it's good points, and the cars are definitely going further into the race than even Ferrari can manage.
Yeah, it's definitely all looking positive since we've moved to the Renault engines. Obviously, the Lamborghini engine was giving a similar sort of horsepower outage, but not necessarily the reliability. And so far, touch wood, the Renault engine's been very good in that area.
So there is the Brabham of Stefano Modena, who is still circulating around. He's in 12th position, but he's not really done the boss any favours there, Ewan Gale. Obviously wanting to see the team do a slightly better job, and Modena has definitely been in the wars a few times. Into the pits comes Martin Donnelly in the Lotus. So let's see where he gets back out onto the circuit. This is his final pit stop on a 2-stop strategy. And Donnelly should rejoin in 9th behind his teammate Derek Warwick, who of course on a 1-stop strategy has gone quite a long way into the race. In fact, having said that, he might actually get out in front of Warwick. No, he won't, because there goes Warwick past the pits. I was right the first time. Stick to your convictions, Sanson. You know what you're talking about. Warwick gets into 8th place. Donnelly in 9th, and Rydell still holding the final point in 10th as PK gets up the inside of the Monteverde Onyx of Stefan Johansson to lap him. Not going so great for Johansson today, that's for sure. But at least the team managed to get in to qualify. If they can get it to the finish, that'll be an extra little bit of prize money for them. Patrese going relatively well there in P4 in front of Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham, who has fallen back a little bit. But then he has been a little bit more aggressive with his 1-stop strategy perhaps than Williams have managed. And that might be the reason why, Ryan, the Brabham just can't quite keep on track with the Williams.
Yeah, it's not the fastest car out there, but it's definitely shown to be quite competitive. Modena was up there and fighting until he really blotted his coffee book today, losing his front wing and then getting involved in the accident later on.
So Ayrton Senna leads the 1990 San Marino Grand Prix in the McLaren, looking likely to get his first win of the season, but we have said that before this year, and it's all come to nothing as Thierry Boutsen runs in second in the Williams, 20 seconds back. PK has now been caught by Riccardo Patrese, the Benetton versus the second Williams, as they battle for the final step on the podium, but PK cannot go the distance. He doesn't have the fuel to get to the end of this race, so he really needs to stretch and pull away the gap in front of Patrese, ready for a quick splash and dash later on, in the hope that that's going to be enough to take him further down the ranks. But third position is not really what Nelson Piquet is racing for today. He's ultimately racing for 6th position, because when he makes his final pit stop, he's not going to be there with these guys. And Berger is catching them pretty quickly, actually, in the McLaren. He's been taking massive chunks out of Hakkinen's advantage. There is Berger in P6, as he dices his way up the inside of the Monteverde Onyx on the way down the main straight. Tucks in round the outside, so Berger could well get, well, looking at the speed of the McLaren. Oh, Senna's out! I don't believe it! Senna's out again! Loose wheel! Loose wheel! He's pushed it so hard, and for the 3rd race in a row, Ayrton Senna leads and retires. Ryan Ferris, I can't believe it.
Wow, it's got to be absolutely gutting for both Senna and the McLaren team. He hasn't put a foot wrong all races. He hasn't done any of the races that he's been. It's all been down to car failing on him. And yeah, much like Prost with Ferrari, is Senna starting to think about his career at McLaren?
Well, the car itself was not at fault on this particular occasion. It was a loose wheel that ended his challenge. So was that driver error, or is there something not quite right with the car? Whatever it is, Ayrton Senna is 3 races into this 1990 championship, and he is without a single race victory. And that means... Oh, well, yeah. We seem to have lost Johansson as well. I do apologise. And that's a big crash. So yeah, Johansson's had a moment. It's a gearbox failure. Oh dear, that's a big shunt.
Massive shunt there for Johansson. But what I was going to say is that also means with PK having to pit, that's potentially giving it a Williams 1-2.
It's a very good point. Let's watch again with Johansson. Oh, that's a big impact. And, well, that was at fairly high speed as well that he hit the wall there. So that could be a problem for Stefan Johansson. He's out of the car, but obviously they'll need to check him over in the medical centre. But dear, oh dear, that was a big impact on Stefan Johansson's Onyx, wasn't it? That's a nasty place to go off when you're travelling at speed. But we're all a little stunned and a little shocked here because for the third race running, Ayrton Senna is out of a Grand Prix in 1990.
Yeah, it's just I'm just speechless, to be honest. Yeah. Obviously, the man coming into the series or this season thinking he's going to bag his second world title. The bad thing for him is that means that his teammate Gerhard Berger, who's supposed to be his number 2 rear gunner, is leading the championship at the moment.
That's a very good point. Gerhard Berger is the man who's scored all the points for McLaren this year, really. He will get a third point, Ayrton Senna, for pole position, so he will at least pull ahead of Alain Prost in the Drivers' Championship standings, but that's not going to give him any source of comfort. And I've just seen Ayrton Senna in one of the monitors walking with a face of pure thunder back to the pits, and that is a man who essentially wants answers and wants them fast. If you are team manager Chris Buxton, this is very uncomfortable viewing. Well, after all of that, we've got a Williams 1-2 on the horizon because we've got Boutsen in first and Patrese in third, but Nelson Piquet needs to make a splash and dash before this race is over. And that is a quite astonishing turn of events. What this means then essentially is that it's Williams set for a 1-2 finish. Now, it's not the way perhaps that Topher Smith would have wanted to take it, but at the same time, they're all racers, they're all competing team bosses. Now, this is interesting though, because I don't think it's done, because even if Piquet were to pit, look at this train of cars piling up. You've got Patrese in third, Hakkinen in the Brabham in fourth, and Berger in the McLaren in fifth position. So this could be a fascinating battle for second.
Has Patrese made a mistake somewhere? Because he's dropped quite a bit off of Piquet and gone straight into the clutches.
You're right, he has. You're right, he has. He's just done a 128.0 compared to the others who are on 125s and 126s. So Berger has got a good potential run here on Hakkinen. Here he comes. Hakkinen's going to make the same bid to get past Patrese in the same breath. Berger comes down round the outside and makes his bid on Hakkinen and gets through. Berger is through.
Yes, but it definitely looks like Hakkinen's not over and done with because he's lining up Berger, possibly an overtake between one of these guys going into Acqua Minerale.
And Donnelly, oh, now who's that? That's Boutsen! Boutsen! Smoke billowing out of the Williams! Oh my days! We've lost Senna, we've lost Gugelmin, now we've lost Boutsen. What a race this is turning into here at Imola. Williams are not going to get a Grand Prix win with Thierry Boutsen. He must be absolutely devastated at the wheel of that Williams. And this is what we were saying earlier, Ryan. The Honda is the fastest engine, but it's not the most reliable.
Yeah, and it's absolutely gutting for Boutsen. He had the strategy. He just did everything that he needed to, and the Honda engine is quite enough.
Well, he was going to be second, whatever happened in this race. With the unfortunate circumstances of the loose wheel of Senna, he was gift-wrapped a victory. But yet again, a dream of victory dies. We lost Gugelmin when he was battling for the victory. We lost Senna, having had the win pretty much sewn up. And now Thierry Boutsen from the lead is out. Absolutely bizarre scenes here at Imola for the San Marino Grand Prix. So this man has now taken the lead of the Grand Prix. Nelson Piquet, remember when he was down at about 8th place at one stage? But Piquet is now leading, but the man who won at Interlagos is not set to win another Grand Prix because he is still on course for another pit stop. But look at who's in second place suddenly. Hello, mate. It's Gerhard Berger.
So Berger at the moment, definitely with all his fingers and toes crossed up, he's on for his second win of the season.
Astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. If Piquet could go the distance, he can't, but if he could go the distance, you've got 6 seconds covering the top 4. And of course, Piquet needing to make a pit stop now means that Hakkinen is set for a podium anyway, because it looked like he'd lost it. Berger is going to get the win here. Patrese is going to get second. Hakkinen's going to get third. And Piquet's going to have to settle for 4th place, which means that Gerhard Berger, who had brake problems earlier in the race, don't forget. He was down in about 15th, 16th. He's had to fight his way through from the back of the grid. So Berger's comeback has been astonishing.
Yeah, he's had to go through the pit lane 3 times, obviously, with that brake issue. And yeah, as you said, down towards the back of the field. I would not have believed him to have come through the way he has, to find himself nurturing that car to a possible victory once again. So definitely driver of the day so far.
Absolutely. I mean, a top 6 you might have thought would be possible, but to come through for the win, no chance. But Berger is doing a grand job here. Here's Stefano Modena, now up into 9th place. And it's the Ligier of Nicola Larini that's going to get into 10th. Suzuki is going to go up to 11th. Juan Fangio, the second, 2 laps down, is going to be in 12th. And those are the only cars left running. We've lost the 2 leaders from this battle that were going to fight for the victory. Thierry Boutsen in the Williams and Ayrton Senna in the McLaren. Johansson in the Monteverde Onyx. Moreno out of the race. Then Alesi, Giacomelli, Gugelmin, Fernandez, Mansell, Nannini, Leto, Alboreto, Chiva and Prost. These modern day cars in 1990 are absolute car killers.
Yeah, and obviously Capelli in 5th position. Obviously, we were writing him off at the start of the race, having lost his rear wing, and he's pulled through to 5th place.
That is also a stunning statistic. You know, when the car is off out of the race with a broken rear wing, you'd never think that they'd be able to come through. The problem is he's not going to get 5th position in this Grand Prix. Because, or no, he might still actually, but it's touch and go between him and Derek Warwick, isn't it? Because Capelli needs to make another pit stop. You can see there from the fuel levels that he's going to need to pit again, as is the race leader Nelson Piquet, who is now being caught rapidly by Gerhard Berger. So Berger is pushing hard here in the McLaren, and they're trying to work their magic through. So let's see how it all fares, but Gerhard Berger is closing in on the race leader pretty rapidly, as Derek Warwick is being caught by his own teammate. So the 2 Lotus cars are 6th and 7th now. Derek Warwick and Martin Donnelly. If more problems happen up front, they could be both in the top 6 the way things are going. But Berger, look at how quickly he's catching up to Nelson Piquet, who does need to pit again. But Berger doesn't. Berger can go to the finish here, and it looks like he's going to get his 3rd podium finish of the season in 3 races and his 2nd win. This is great news for Berger, not so great for Piquet. And here's Donnelly on the inside of Warwick. That's not going to happen. They're not going to hit each other. Ryan Ferris, as we know, runs a good solid ship, and these two have good respect for each other, don't they, Ryan?
I hope so.
Certainly hope so. But Berger's in. So Berger did need to make another pit stop. I thought he was going to go to the end. So no, Berger does need to make another pit stop. He needs to make a splash and dash. So Piquet's going to make a pit stop. That means that Mika Hakkinen could lead this race.
But Piquet is 2nd behind. He seems to be dropping... no, Patrese, sorry, is 2nd behind. He seems to be dropping
he
Patrese
does
as well.
Yeah, because Hakkinen was behind Patrese, if you remember. But Hakkinen has somehow found the way to get back through. Well, on board with Patrese, and you can see he's pushing because he knows now. I don't think they were aware that Berger needed to pit again, because Piquet needs to pit again. We know that in the Benetton. Look how many fuel laps he's got. There's no way he's going to make the flag. So he's going to pit again. So the leader of this race now is this man. Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham is leading the San Marino Grand Prix on his 3rd ever Grand Prix start.
Wow, this is a truly stunning performance from Hakkinen. We said earlier that he was had all the hallmarks of a potential race winner and championship winner, and but we didn't think that race win would potentially be coming this soon.
That is an amazing opportunity for the Brabham team, who have had so much hardship over the years. Ewan Gale has been working tirelessly to get the Brabham to be competitive again. They've had such a difficult time of it. Their last victory was so long ago, and it's almost unheard of these days that the Brabham is still competitive, because they've had such a difficult time of it the last few years. Their last Grand Prix victory was in 1983, let's not forget. So it's been a heck of a long time since the Brabham was competitive. But it's finally looking like they're going to get at the very least a podium if they can continue this battle. But Piquet set to come into the pits means that almost certainly this is going to be... Oh, no, sorry. Their last race win was in 1985. I do apologise. At the French Grand Prix with Nelson Piquet. So they haven't won a Grand Prix for 5 years. They didn't even race in the 1988 season. But here they are, having an absolutely fantastic renaissance. And it's absolutely astonishing.
And what engine has he got in the back of that?
They've got a Honda. So maybe some of the Hondas are reliable, some of them aren't, but it's hard to know which one's which from race to race.
But do they just have to pull a raffle ticket out and this is your engine you're getting?
Yeah, absolutely, quite possibly. Maybe it's pooled engines amongst the Honda drivers. But anyway, Hakkinen is a second ahead of Patrese, so this race win is definitely not done and dusted yet, as Piquet is still set for a pit stop. Into the pits comes Rydell, so the Tyrrell driver in 8th place. Now, I'm not sure how he's going to fare compared to Modena. Modena's going to get him, I think. So Modena will move up into 8th place in the second Brabham. He's very lucky that he's running in the position he's in. Oh no! Rydell's come out right in front of him. So this is Tyrrell versus Brabham for 8th position here. Rickard Rydell of Sweden versus Stefano Modena of Italy, and Modena's got up to speed. But Rydell is able to keep his position. And Ivan Capelli is out. Capelli is out. And it looks like Donnelly as well. Donnelly out of the race. So Donnelly with a puncture. And also, we've lost Capelli. So Capelli, I didn't see what happened to Ivan Capelli. But certainly he has gone from the race as well. There he is. So now we need to see what happened there to Capelli. Engine failure. So engine failure for Capelli. And a puncture for Donnelly. Now that means we've only got 10 cars left, and one of them is a Eurobrunn. Well,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Fangio the second.
On his debut in Grand Prix, is set for a point. It's heartbreak for Capelli and the Leighton House team. They had a great chance of points today, and even a great chance of victory at one stage. And it's heartbreak for Martin Donnelly as his teammate there goes through. Derek Warwick, who's now up into 5th position, of course. So that's not bad go. Piquet! Gearbox! Gearbox for Piquet! He's out of it! He doesn't even make it to his final pit stop. And that's Hakkinen into the lead. Patrese in a second, and Berger through into 3rd. This San Marino Grand Prix is decimating cars from every single angle.
This is almost reminiscent of, was it the 85, 86 race where everyone ran out of fuel?
That's very true. That's very true. And this is, well, this has shades of Monaco 82 as well. 8 years ago when we had Prost crashing from the lead of the race. And then in the last couple of laps, we had several race winners gone. We've lost Senna, we've lost Gugelmin, we've lost Boutsen, we've now lost Piquet. We almost lost Berger. But that is Nelson Piquet out of the race. And that is a championship contender gone. So now the race lead officially now falls to the Brabham of the rookie sensation from Finland, Mika Hakkinen, who is in his 3rd ever Grand Prix. And here he is leading for Brabham. They could win their first Grand Prix since 1985.
Yeah, and we thought the Go Bobby Cup race was exciting and full of drama, and well, I think the Grand Prix has gone hold my beer.
Absolutely astonishing situation. I never would have seen half of what's come through in this race, but Imola 1985 was a tough old race. 86 was even tougher, but this is right up there. Just astonishing, just an astonishing situation, but I'm afraid it's absolute heartbreak. What an absolutely astonishing situation, as now we've got a Brabham leading a Grand Prix, and it's set to be, well, it's going to be, the way things currently stand, the 3rd different winner in 3 races. But let's not get too hasty about that. There are still 9 laps to go at the end of this one, and Berger is only 10 seconds off the lead on fresh tyres, pushing like crazy, because there might just be one final sniff of a Grand Prix win for Berger. It might just still happen. He's lapping like crazy at the moment, and he's 9.8 seconds back, and he is catching them. Warwick's up to 4th, by the way. Modena is 5th. Rydell is up into 6th place now. Larini is 7th. Suzuki is 8th. if he keeps going, Fangio is going to be up into 9th place. He's going to get 2 points on the board.
Yeah, and obviously, before the first pit stops, we were saying how the top 7 cars were Honda powered. Now there's only 3 left in the top 3. And the rest are all scattered.
That's very true. Well, Modena is there in 5th place as well as a Honda engine in P5. And Rydell in the Tyrrell is there in P6. But it's certainly not the Honda engines that were at the front. So, Mika Hakkinen, everything is crossed here at Brabham now. Everything. Fingers, toes, arms, kneecaps, elbows, you name it. As they are desperate to get their man, Mika Hakkinen, home to the finish in 1st position. This has been one of the most astonishing races in the Retro Racing Managers League. The RRML Formula 1 Grand Prix 2 World Championship of 1990. Here is Mika Hakkinen in front of Riccardo Patrese to the tune of 1.4 seconds. Either one of them deserves this victory, but Berger is catching them rapidly on fresh tyres with a light fuel load. So Berger's got the gap down to less than 9 seconds. He's got time to do this. He's not done yet. Berger genuinely could still win this Grand Prix. As he comes across the line now, look, the gap's down to 8.3. Berger is absolutely slicing the gap to the 2 cars in front.
But one thing we have found around this circuit, catching is one thing, but passing is another. Having to line up the perfect move, and he has to get it done in quick succession if he wants this victory.
So there's Patrese, 1.7 seconds back. He's actually losing time to Hakkinen. But Berger is absolutely monstering the gap. Look back, and where is the McLaren? There's Rydell, there's Modena, there's Berger. So that's how quickly he has caught them. He was a good 16 seconds back. But he is absolutely flooring it round this circuit. There's only 9 cars still running here at Imola. But he's got a chance. He can do this. He can win this Grand Prix. So Hakkinen leads. Patrese second. Berger's got the gap down to 7.6. He could still do this. He's going to have traffic to deal with, though. That's going to be his problem. He's going to have Rydell and Modena. And the first one he catches is Stefano Modena as Fangio the second moves into, officially now, 9th place. Piquet is only going to come away from this Grand Prix with 1 point. So Berger's going to take the lead of the Drivers' Championship, whatever happens now, because they have completed enough of a race distance for the top 10 to score points. Piquet just, but he will still score that 1 point, I do believe. We'll confirm that later. But Eurobrun must be absolutely delighted because their car is still circulating, still going round, and despite the fact that it's marginally off the pace, Lewis Bassendale and the Eurobrun team are about to bag 2 championship points just by staying in the hunt, and that's going to do Eurobrun a massive world of good in terms of the prize money, in terms of the Constructors' Championship status. That's going to be big stuff for Eurobrun.
And, Eurobrun surprised that they actually even made it past pre-qualifying into this Grand Prix, let alone score points. So, yeah, definitely the Eurobrun team are going to be ecstatic with the result of this race.
And that's how crucial the pre-qualifying half-distance sprint is, because you just don't know what's going to happen in the Grand Prix. You genuinely don't know if you can score points or not. Here's Larini diving down the inside of Fangio. The Ligier team are going to get 6 points out of this Grand Prix, the way things are currently going for Ligier. Berger, look how quickly he's got away from Modena. He's still pushing the gap down to 5.8 seconds. He can do this. He believes he can do this. He can win the Grand Prix as he closes up on Rickard Rydell now in the Tyrrell. So Gerhard Berger has got this gap down so quickly. Fresh tyres, light fuel load. The 2 cars in front have been on those tyres for a long period of time. Gerhard, go get him. That's the message. And the gap is down to 5 seconds with 6 laps to go. It's going to be tough for Berger, but he can do it.
All he has to do is dispense of Rydell here, and it is just, you can see his 2 rivals.
Have we got another yellow flag? Was that another yellow flag? Has somebody else gone off the road? Oh, just a trick of the light there. I genuinely thought we'd lost someone else there for a minute. I was just thinking we can't lose any more. We've only got 9 as it is. We can't lose any more cars. Berger is... Oh, this is a problem. This is a problem now. Rydell is causing a major issue for Berger. Berger can't get through. And this is hampering his chances of catching up to the 2 cars in front. And now Berger goes for it. He gets through, but that's cost him massive time. At the worst possible time as Patrese hugs the curbs on the outside line. He knows that Berger is coming for him.
Yeah, and I could see the team boss of McLaren marching down to Sam Hall in the Tyrrell camp, just waving his fist, shaking his fist, telling him to get his driver out of the way.
Is Mika Hakkinen really about to win in his third Grand Prix start? This very talented young Finn, new for 1990. People have been talking about him for a couple of seasons now in the lower formulas, but nobody ever thought he'd actually get a chance at a Grand Prix in 1990. But Ewan Gale said, no, we know what he can do. He's got the talent, he's got the speed. All we need to do is give him the car. They weren't sure they'd done that in the first 2 weekends, but here at Imola, the Brabham package has come together. And they're under pressure because Berger's still pushing hard. The gap is down to 4.1 now with 5 laps to go. There is Berger. Still giving it everything he's got. He might at least get second, if not the victory. But Gerhard Berger is pushing it. He thinks he can still win this San Marino Grand Prix. What a nail-biting finish for everything that we've had. Gugelmin, the race leader early on, out of the race. Senna, guaranteed to win, it seemed at one stage, out of the race. Boutsen, the man gifted the victory after that, out of the race. Piquet taking over the lead, but needing to make a final pit stop. He's now out of the race. So it's all on Mika Hakkinen in his third ever Grand Prix start. He might just come through here and pick up the most unlikely Grand Prix win in many, many years.
Certainly, I think Sam Hall, the owner of Tyrrell, will be a bit disappointed. Obviously, there's quite a rivalry going on between Ewan Gale at Brabham and Tyrrell, and where he's been so close to victory and missed out, to see his main rival in the championship and long-term rival potentially taking a win with Hakkinen, that's going to be soul-destroying for the Tyrrell team.
It's a fair point, actually, because before his retirement, Jean Alesi was a few seconds up the road ahead of Mika Hakkinen. Here comes Berger. He's going to make the pit for Patrese now. They're going to come out of Tamburello. Berger will not hesitate. He's going to get the slipstream move and up the inside. Patrese going to shut the door on Berger, though. He's not going to give him the space. He's not going to give him the room. And Patrese holds Berger at bay. So Gerhard Berger does not get into second place yet. And this is absolute heaven sent for Mika Hakkinen. Here comes Berger again. He's going to launch up the inside, but Tracy will not give him space.
I was going to say it would have had to have been a move at Aqua Minerale. Not many moves happen going up beforehand, and yeah, it seems Berger a bit too feisty, not hesitant enough.
I think he wanted to see, essentially, if he could outfox Patrese into the braking zone, but Patrese is too good a driver, too experienced a driver for any of those fun and games. As Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham continues to lead here. Nicola Larini in the Ligier running in 7th place, looking good for some points for the French team. And team boss Dave Goddard will be very satisfied, I think, with that result, considering where the team has been on the grid in qualifying these last few races. Points are definitely going to help Ligier move up the order, but the Renault engines is where they were really hoping to make it count. And hopefully their stock is going to change as we head to Monaco. Upgrades available, of course, at the end of this race battle. As Patrese continues. Berger in 3rd. Berger's still pushing, but there's only 3 laps to go. And Patrese has been a real thorn in the side of Gerhard Berger's plight for victory. And it's looking less and less likely. Modena is slowing. Modena's slowing. He's got suspension failure in the Brabham. Now that's great news for Dave Goddard and the Ligier team, because Modena is about to lose 6th place, and that's going to be gift wrapped to Nicola Larini. So that's 8 points for Ligier, not 6. Bad news for Stefano Modena and Brabham, though, and that doesn't bode well for Hakkinen coming into the last few laps. Big problem for Modena. Big problem for Modena. Now, the mechanics will be watching that Brabham like a hawk at the front end as Modena pulls out of the race and parks it. Hakkinen's out in front, is still obviously leading by 3.4 seconds. Berger's through! Berger's through! He's got the move on Patrese. We need to have a look at it. But Berger has got through. Let's have a look at how he did it. He went on the exit of Aqua Minerale, Ryan. That's how he got into second.
Yeah, it has a good run up into the chicane. So, yeah, a very tough corner to make a move at. Obviously, we've seen Modena getting it all wrong and rear-ending someone earlier on in the race. And obviously, we've got now Rydell in 5th position.
We have indeed. Rydell in the Tyrrell is P5. These guys have all lapped them, but now Berger has clear air between himself and the Finn Mika Hakkinen. It's a name that not many people have heard yet in this 1990 Grand Prix season. He's certainly a new face with the Brabham Honda team. But Berger is pushing hard here to try and catch him. Unfortunately for Patrese, his dream of winning this race seems to have faded. But with 2 laps to go, Berger's got to make up 3.3 seconds. It seems like a lot, and it is a lot. But if anyone's going to get there, it's going to be Gerhard Berger in the McLaren. He is going to give it everything he's got.
Obviously, Hakkinen just going past the stricken Brabham for the first time. He's suddenly going to be thinking, oh, 1 and a bit laps left. I hope this thing holds itself together. Obviously, you start hearing noises that didn't exist before as you go towards your first Grand Prix win.
And he's a rookie driver as well. You know, mistakes will happen. Oh, my goodness. Mika Hakkinen nearly throws the Grand Prix away. Oh, Mika, calm down. Goodness me. He nearly throws the entire race away. And that's definitely helped Berger.
He definitely smells blood now, this Berger.
I genuinely didn't think we would have that many more stings in the tail, but that's a big mistake for Hakkinen. Has he flat spotted the tyres doing that? Because Berger could have a hell of a lot more grip now than he had even before. Berger could make mincemeat of him in the last lap. Oh my word. I thought we were done with all the last minute dramas, but Mika Hakkinen very nearly throws away the Grand Prix and he saves it just at Acqua Minerale. But Berger is so close. If he's got more grip around this lap, then Mika Hakkinen on the fresher tyres. The gap is down to 2 seconds. If he can make that in 1 lap, he's got the win. Hakkinen's got to push.
It's Patrese beginning to slow. I noticed that Rydell, the lapped car behind, is starting to close in on Patrese. So a bit odd there.
Well, that's a good possibility because if he loses that, then Warwick is going to get a podium in the Lotus. No, he's just gone fastest of all in the first sector. So that puts to bed that theory. But Berger is definitely chipping away at Hakkinen's advantage. In second position, the gap down to 1.8. But if Hakkinen makes the same mistake twice, look at Hakkinen, so much more careful this time through the S's. He does not want to make that mistake twice, and he even loses a bit of time just making sure that the car can get through. But that was nerves there for Mika Hakkinen. He's under so much pressure from Gerhard Berger, who's very much the experienced hand at the game now. But this is such a fantastic finish to this Grand Prix. But surely Mika Hakkinen is not going to have bad luck strike this close to home. Gerhard Berger has given it everything. He's come from a brake issue down to the back of the field to charge through and try and grab the victory. But it's going to come for the novice, the rookie, in his third ever Grand Prix. Out of the final turn for the first time since 1985. Brabham will take victory. Mika Hakkinen wins the 1990 San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. What a result!
That is a fantastic result for Hakkinen and Brabham, captained by Ewan Gale. This weekend has just brought on drama after drama, and if you'd have came into this weekend saying that Brabham was going to win the race, I'd have definitely said you were lying.
Who would have thought that? Who would have thought a Grand Prix win for Brabham? But team manager Ewan Gale must be absolutely delighted and beside himself with that one. Oh, I think, has Hakkinen run out of fuel? He's certainly got absolutely no power in that car. It's just brought it almost to a clattering halt, but I think, no, he's savouring the moment. He's savouring the moment, is Mika Hakkinen. What an absolutely astonishing victory. Hakkinen wins from Gerhard Berger, who takes a firm lead in the Drivers' Championship now, from Patrese in third in the Williams. Derek Warwick in the Lotus in P4. That's a great result as well. Rydell in the Tyrrell and Larini in the Ligier. What a crazy San Marino Grand Prix. There is the final result. Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham takes the victory. His first in Formula One racing on his third attempt. Gerhard Berger second for McLaren. Third for the Williams team is Riccardo Patrese. Derek Warwick for Lotus in fourth place ahead of Ricard Rydell and Nicola Larini. The only other finishers were Aguri Suzuki, Juan Fangio II and Stefano Modena. And that caption tells you that Nelson Piquet in the Benetton does not get the final point. His retirement is listed there as transmission. He's not laps behind, which means he does not get classified as a race finisher. He does not score the final point. Capelli and Donnelly are next up as retirements too. Boutsen and Senna, two race leaders early on. Johansson, Moreno, Alesi could have won the race as well. Giacomelli Gugelmin, also an early race leader. Fernandez, the two Ferraris of Mansell and Prost, Nannini's Benetton 2, then Leto, Alboreto, and Eddie Cheever. What a crazy San Marino Grand Prix. The final fact, Gugelmin, the fastest lap of the entire race, was set by the Leighton House. That is such a crazy race, such a crazy Grand Prix. And what a way to finish this quite extraordinary third race in the RRML Grand Prix 2 World Championship of 1990. Ryan, you would never have put money on the Brabham taking the win today.
Well, yes, and I wouldn't have put money on Berger coming back from his brake issue earlier on as well.
So an absolutely astonishing result. We'll see if we can grab a word with any of the managers. We don't have a massive amount of time today, unfortunately, but we'll hopefully be able to grab a word with one or two. Certainly, Ryan, we can start with you. I mean, now you can come out of commentator mode and tell us a bit about the Lotus performance. I mean, 4th position there. Not bad going at all from Derek Warwick. Unfortunate that it could have been 4th and 5th at one stage for the Loti, but a very good result for Warwick nonetheless.
Yeah, it's a brilliant result for Lotus, and obviously it's all detriment to the Renault power unit, as we also see in the Ligier bagging points, because it may not have the performance, but it keeps going.
It certainly does, and that's going to be so critical come the end of the race season. Well, in the Manager's Lounge joining us is the Minardi team manager, Michael Gillespie. Michael, it's a better race for Minardi in the pre-qualifying earlier. We obviously saw Martini and Brundle being a lot faster than they were at Interlagos, but it's a difficult racetrack here, and it is a car killer, and it looked as though Martini had handling problems, Brundle with mechanical failure. This is not going to be an easy season.
No, it isn't. I mean, you can have the highs of one race and then the lows of the next, but I'm happy for Martini bringing the car home in the points again. He's showing consistency in the car, and it wasn't easy for him, that's sure. Brundle had a promising race, but just unfortunate he had that problem in the end. But I wouldn't be over satisfied with our performance. I mean, there are some teams closing in on us, and I think they've probably overtaken us in the championship now. But we have to try and find out what's wrong. We've had some poor qualifying once again, and it's really unfortunate. Hopefully things pick up in the next round, I think, hopefully.
Well, next up, of course, is Monaco, which is traditionally a circuit that doesn't really come down to the luck of the speed of the car. It's more the mechanical grip. How do you feel that the car can perform at Monaco? Is there a better chance of Minardi getting onto the Grand Prix grid there?
Well, we won on a street track earlier this year at Phoenix, so the omen is good, I think. Hopefully we could use that.
Well, hopefully it's going to be a good one for Minardi. Thank you very much, Michael Gillespie. Good to hear from you once again. Let's grab a word with Red Bull Tyrrell Honda manager Sam Hall. A top 5 finish, obviously very good for Tyrrell. Not quite the way that you thought it was going to come, though.
No, not really. I will admit, Mika has, or not Mika, he's the one who won the race. He's not ours. That's a good job for Brabham, by the way, on that one. A bit of a lucky win, but, you take them how you can get them. But no, with Jean earlier in the race, we thought he was going to be the driver that get the podium. He looked good for it. But so many retirements in that race. And Ricard, again, proving that he's around, he can do the job, and he'll put in a solid performance. He's a solid pair of hands.
It's quite interesting because a few people at the start of the year would have looked at Ricard Rydell's inexperience and lack of single-seater experience coming into that. I mean, he's been in F3000 for a year and a half, but it still hasn't had a massive amount of experience at Grand Prix level to be thrown straight into the Tyrrell and expect to perform. I guess they're laughing on the other side of their face now because he has shown good, consistent, solid driving.
Yeah, I mean, pace you can always work on. We can improve on the pace and everything, but as we've said to him all year, or all 3 races so far, as long as he doesn't stuff it in the wall, brings it home in one piece, we'll be happy. The fact that he has got that bit of pace, I think he was on the 9th row, which is an improvement for him on the grid today. We're happy, and I think it might be more of a challenge keeping hold of him for next year than it was getting hold of him in the first place for this year.
Fantastic. Well, we're looking forward to seeing how things go for Tyrrell. Good luck at Monaco, and we wish you guys all the best for continued success. Let's grab a word with the team manager at Ferrari, Chris Cavani. It's been a very difficult situation, obviously, for the Prancing Horse, and it's a difficult situation with the two drivers there, Alain Prost and Nigel Mansell, really struggling here at Imola. Chris, it's not been the easiest situation for the team, and Alain, of course, will obviously be still feeling the hurt after Interlagos, and then to come into Imola and not make it round 2 laps. What are the frustrations at the Ferrari team tonight?
They're everywhere. That's all I can say.
Wow, it's a very crestfallen situation. And of course, Nigel looking good up until that point. Nigel Mansell was going well, and it looked pretty rosy for him. And again, more problems for Nigel. Was there a good strategy potentially for Ferrari to win that one had it not been the problem?
No, I don't think so. I think that the Ferrari engine itself isn't as powerful as Honda, and having lots of teams having Honda engines, it's sort of means we're sort of doomed to begin with regarding race win. I don't think we can expect a race win this year at this rate. And we'd just be happy if we can get home, let alone get on a podium. And that's not happening. So something has to give.
Okay. It's an interesting point of view from you, Chris, but hopefully when you get to Monaco, things will be a little bit sweeter for Ferrari. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, I hope so as well. Fingers crossed.
Okay, well, Ryan, let's close up with a crazy start to the season. We've had 3 different races, 3 different race winners from 3 different teams. It could get very competitive when we get to Monaco.
Certainly, there isn't a driver yet that we can definitely pin our hopes on for a championship. Obviously, it all began the season. We were thinking it was going to be a fight again between Alain Prost and Senna, but none of that has materialised yet, and it's actually gone to Berger and Piquet for the championship.
So it is a fascinating situation. A rookie wins his first Grand Prix in only his 3rd attempt in Mika Hakkinen. Brabham returned to the victory dais for the first time in 5 years. Nelson Piquet and Gerhard Berger are now scrapping for the title. Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost and Nigel Mansell are wondering what will happen to them in 1990 and how much longer their patience is going to last. I'm Jake Sanson. Thank you to Ryan Ferris for being with me in the commentary box. We'll get back into the action on Monday once again as we gear up for the Monaco Grand Prix. See you then.